This episode of Why We Bleep is sponsored by Signal Sounds. If you're the kind of person who likes interesting electronic music equipment, I think it's only right that I make you aware of retailer Signal Sounds. They're based in Glasgow, and though they are based in Glasgow, they ship worldwide, amazingly quickly, within 48 hours in most cases, and the things they ship worldwide aren't boring. No. They're interesting. In fact, Signal Sounds pride themselves on stocking only the most interesting of things, including gear from Grayscale, Folk Tech, who make weird-ass stuff, Bastel, who make even weirder-ass stuff, or maybe not, actually. There's a bit of a weird-ass stuff off between those two companies. Verbos, who makes lovely stuff that works like Buchla. Dubfer, never heard of him, and Tendrils, who are a brand that you may not have heard of, but make right-angled cables, which I would say are just the thing if one has a small case that doesn't have a lot of clearance, and you've got to close it patched. What a lovely invention that is. So, if you're in the market for some gear, be it Eurorack or otherwise, please talk to Signal Sounds. Their website is signalsounds.com. The website again, signalsounds.com. Why? Oh man, these music technology shows really take it out of you. Hi, I'm the voice formerly known as Mylar Melodies, and today I will mainly be sounding like a man who smoked 5 billion cigarettes, because I just got back from Synth Fest. Synth Fest, for those who don't know, is a show in the north of England run by the Sound Upon Sound people, which is a one-day extravo-synthganza where you can encounter all manner of synthesis in a small space, manned by people who are both enthusiasts and sort of industry, sort of demonstrator people, companies, and sort of, it's like a wonderful sort of bring and buy sale, where you can buy gear, people show things, people show prototypes and mad stuff and do talks. And generally, it's got a really nice, and I mean, I shouldn't say this because it's its own thing, but it's a bit super boothy in the sense of it's really sort of nice and non-corporate and just like a nice vibe. Everyone's very positive and cool. And, if you know these folks, you can't sort of walk more than 2 meters before you bump into someone that you have a chat with and say hello. Oh dear, there I go. And unfortunately, or fortunately, it involves a lot of talking, and all the words came out of my mouth, and now I don't have the ability to make any more. So I apologize, but don't worry. In our conversation today, this was not recorded just post Synth Fest, so I sound normal. But the person, interestingly, that I am talking to today was at Synth Fest, and that is young Finlay Shakespeare, Master Finlay, who is, if you know him, his company is called Future Sound Systems, and I don't want to spoil it because it's a long conversation. Finlay, I think I sum it up as just a person that I really enjoy talking to and hanging out with. He's about 9 years old. He's insanely young. And what is remarkable about this is that he has his own limited company. His company, which has started from incredibly humble beginnings. And there's a slight spoiler alert. I just want to tell you this one fact, which is that Finlay sold his first modules to Analog Haven in the US when he was in 6th form. That is ridiculous. He started doing electronic-y things when he was 11 or 12 in Gloucester, and that was in 2004. He's a very young man. And that's just, that's fine. My point is, what did I do when I was his age? What have I achieved by that point? Like, God damn it, man. Like, he's not even 30, I don't think, and he has got his own limited company. Fair play. And he makes really cool shit. Like, for example, Finlay makes the gristalizer, officially the official gristalizer adapted for Eurorack, with the not only blessing but in partnership with Chris Carter and co. It's just, good effort, mate. And I just love talking to him because he's just makes me laugh a lot. He's just really daft as well. So, and if you follow him on Instagram, which I heartily recommend doing, he has this thing of going whenever he goes to an event or has some kind of situation that he puts himself in, he likes to put up a video where he sort of stares down at the camera with wild crazy eyes and shrieks, "It's Synth Fest time," at the absolute loudest he possibly can. This is one of those things. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put it at the end of this before we play the podcast. I love Finlay. He just makes me laugh and he makes amazing stuff. And actually at Synth Fest, he was showing this new Brunswick synth, which is a quote £99 complete analog synthesizer. £99 with a slight caveat that you build it. It's a DIY thing and it doesn't have a case, but I think there might be a case later. And then I think that they do a built one as well. But it sounded gnarly as hell. Like, Finn is really interested in sort of, more like the MS-20. Like, that was his jam. So it's like weird, grungy, dirty, harsher, wilder, sort of noisier things. But yet these things are made with this kind of quite classy aesthetic. Obviously all black and sort of metal looking, but just classy and cool as well. I really like his stuff. And I've got like the TG4, which is the gristalizer VC8. It's just an absolute beast. So we will be talking to Finlay, the young Finlay, about everything. And then what has been going on? The main thing is to say that I'm currently in the process of moving. I'm actually going to be leaving London. Leaving and going to Yorkshire, the motherland, where I'm from. And I'll be talking like that. I'm going to start getting a bit of that back in my voice, because it's been a while. So it's time for me to move back, get out at London, bloody horrible, isn't it? And move up north, where beer's cheap, where synths are expensive, and there's naught to do but sit at home and fart about with wires, I think I'm going to be in good company. My friend Ben Divkid is obviously a resident of Bradford, and I hope to be spending more time with him. So it'll be a bloody great northern powerhouse of synthesis, with the two of us in relatively close proximity, making videos. That's the future. That it was slightly stressful because I've had to completely destroy my studio and send 99% of it up north. I'm currently in my brother's house. Thanks, Matt and Emily. And I've poled up in the top, trying to finish some stuff before heading up. So yeah, heck, the only constant is change, so they say. And change is good. Change is good. That's a good thing. And I've got to say, like, you think I'm leaving London, but London is where everything happens. But I kind of like, I'm building this sort of fantasy. It's something that I've always thought about, because I got into making electronic music not because I was in London, quite the opposite, because I was in Yorkshire and there was nothing else to do. Like these bands like Heaven 17 and stuff that came out of Sheffield, where it was a grim northern town. It was grim. It was shit. There was nothing to do. And so that's what creates creativity, in the sense you've got like these young people, and obviously it can go in different ways. Not everyone's fortunate or privileged enough to be able to sort of afford the equipment that lets you do this. But, I think now it's easier than ever. It's certainly easier. It's certainly cheaper. But by virtue of being in a boring ass place, you just there's nothing else to do. And electronic music, I think you will agree, is the ultimate hobby for boring ass places where you've got sweet FA to do. Well, if you're going to sit on your ass, you might as well be playing some, like, twiddling some knobs whilst you're doing it. It's like, it's amazing. And what I'm looking forward to is this sort of idea of the kind of, synth hermit. You've got more space, you can afford a bigger house and more room, and, have a big space, hopefully dedicated to making music, to have a real, like, playroom where you can be creative and not constricted. Like, seriously, like making videos in a London flat. The practicalities of actually just getting like a light and a camera and a microphone into the same space, when I'm like butted up against the synthesizer as well in this tiny, tiny, tiny little like box room, it just is like maddening. It is truly maddening. And I look forward to spreading out, and I look forward to kind of this idea of being the sort of, synth hermit and having my little like castle oasis in the middle of rolling hills where you pull down the curtains and put fire on, have a cup of tea and make music, because there's not a huge else to do, a huge lot else, So that's my dream. And I look forward to making it a reality if I can. And so, Finlay damned Shakespeare. What a guy. What a man. I think I said this before, but I just really like talking to Finlay Shakespeare because he makes me laugh a lot. He's just really silly, funny. And this is the first podcast kind of with that, for that reason. I actually didn't write any questions down. I've done other podcasts where I've got like 15, 20 questions written down, but haven't looked at them, but I had them in my mind and I thought about them. This was one where I was like, I actually intentionally want to just let kind of rip and just have a conversation that can be about anything and everything. A little bit like, the Robin one where it's just, you're led by the conversation. And so that's what happens. And it's a long one, but I think it was fun. I had fun. So I'd like to listen to it again. So you're all going to have to listen to it with me, damn it. And what do we talk about? Well, we talk about his made up name. It's not made up. It's not. Musical heroes that we've had. Finlay's is one of his biggest is Ortega, but there are obviously many more. Political and socially charged music, the music he makes, because actually it's the other thing with Finlay, like not only is he a maker of equipment, but his music is really bloody good, like really good, genuinely. Like he makes music under this name House Diet. Well, that's the name of this sort of project. I highly recommend that you listen to his music. I mean that, trust me. He's really amazing. Like, it's actually really incredible. And he sings and is doing live improvised music with his modular. So we actually spend a lot of time talking about that. We talk about him nearly getting beaten by a Domino's delivery driver. I do an impression of Matthew from ALM. Matthew, I apologize. I love you. Talk about warped Ortega records, the future being solenoids. We actually wiggle around a tiny bit. He had his live system on the table, so we actually play a bit. And, starting a record label, or starting a business, I should say, and the way that he feels it's like a record label. We talk about body liquor. We talk about and do our impression of what samplers would say if they could speak after being woken up for 10 years asleep. And we generally just spend a lot of time being really silly and doing stupid voices. And because we're going to start in medias res, I should preface that when this starts, you will hear that we were talking about the fact that Future Sound Systems has just recently, like the day before we recorded the podcast, had gone from being a sole trader to Future Sound Systems being a limited company. And we were talking about another thing, which is what it's like to get electrocuted by mains voltage. And so perhaps one good reason to start a limited company is that if someone gets electrocuted by mains voltage under his watch, they can't sue him. They have to sue the company. So it kind of gets you out of jail. That's a fair and important thing to bear in mind as you embark on a career as a business owner. So without further ado, I think it's only right to say,
It's podcast time. It's podcast time.
So is this effectively, it's just a very long-winded way to escape litigation from electrocuting someone inevitably.
Yeah. But it allows you to do other things.
Do you often shock yourself when you...
No, I
mean, you shot me a lot of the time.
Yeah, no. The last... I have managed to electrocute myself twice.
To what degree?
So the first time was on like 110 volts off a split way transformer.
Across the pond power.
Yeah, but I think it was on my MS-10. And
Japanese.
I was doing a load of... No, it was UK. But it's got the like center tap on the primary of the transformer.
I understand completely.
Yeah. So it says like you can put your 240 here across the entire transformer, or you can put your 110 halfway, so just using half the windings. And I managed to touch the 110 and the 240. So the potential across them was only 110. So it wasn't as bad as the full 240. I did that once, and that was quite funny because my leg shot up and then came straight back down. So it sounded like I just started dancing, and that was genuinely that. And that was kind of a like, I kind of want to do that again moments. You know, that was quite fun.
Like it was a pleasant.
Yeah, and then the second time was...
Did you touch it to your leg, though? Like, why did your leg go?
So I think
is that like the reaction?
So where we were doing it, they had ESD flooring. So I don't really know enough about it, but that's grounded through a very big resistance. So I think it was because that was the shortest path.
So it went down your leg?
So it went down my leg. Fuck. The other time I did it... again so both of these happened before I went full-time with Future Sound Systems, so I like to think that it's not my fault, even though it's completely, well, in the second case not so much, but in the first case it was definitely my fault, but it wasn't my fault. Second case was I was working for a synthesizer company, and we had a absolutely terrible test rig.
Amazing. Who was that? No, don't know.
Main's coming in, and I just managed to flick the mains inlet with the one hand, whilst I think it must be my left hand, and my other hand was holding a table, and it went across my heart. Oh. And that's one of those moments where you don't know what's happened, but it feels like you've been run over, and that it was quite. The boss of the company was quite funny because I said, I've got these burns on my fingers, like where it's shot up me. Do you want to log that? And he was like, no, you had those this morning. And I'm like, pretty sure I know my own hands better than you do, but okay. And I then later realised it's because it would be a HSE thing. So he'd have to go to health and safety flag it. Then they would be, investigated for all of that kind of stuff. So, which, I mean, there wasn't much of that. There wasn't much of that at all. I think that was really the only one dodgy thing.
Accidents happen in any company. Yeah. And in a way, it's it's kind of not their fault. Like, you did do it to yourself. But
yeah, it was.
What could they have, I don't know what they could have done.
But. It was pretty much negligence on my part, but it was awful. It was also like an awful test procedure, I guess.
What does it feel like?
It is like you don't really know what's happened, and then
you're just like you obviously feel something because you're like, what the fuck was that?
It is like you can feel every single muscle with where the current is flowing. You can feel all of that oscillating at 50 hertz.
Ooh.
So
all your muscles are like,
so it feels like mains hum. That's the really weird thing is that when you hear
it's like brr,
it is just like bah, and you're like, oh my, this is mad. This is absolutely mad. And I know people who have kind of had similar things where it's somehow gone around their ear, and they do hear it. They genuinely hear like a burr. Pretty much a square wave, yeah.
Fuck.
And it's like, that's quite a thing.
That's
quite a thing.
I've heard about people getting electrocuted on stage as well, like when you get when people touch the mic and it makes... People have died, like there's literally from bad stage management and all that kind of... There's so many little things that could then cause a fatal...
Yeah, I mean, that was a thing at my university. So this was back in the 70s or the 60s. They had a band playing their student union, and the guy, the guitarist and vocalist's amp had failed in a way that the chassis, the earth, was live. He plugged his guitar into it, and of course the guitar is just an isolated thing. So he's doing that. He's absolutely fine because he's not making, path to ground anywhere. And then as soon as he touched the mic stand, which somehow was earthed, I guess through the mic.
Yeah.
He just died.
Just bang.
Bam.
You become the joint in the current.
Yeah.
In the
so
circuit.
he was killed by that, and then the university ever since have taken this real tough stance on having everything pat tested. So, if you ever wanted at that point, I'm taking like modular synth stuff into recording sessions, and like, has that been pat tested? And I'm like, well, I guess it has because I've built it all. I've put the power supply in. I've done all of that. It's competent person's done it. So I don't know, but it's
like, no.
But then, sometimes it would just be like, that looks very unsafe. You don't take it in. I'm like, well, okay, I'll do it at home where it's no less.
But I totally understand that because it's like someone died. Somebody died. It's just like...
Yeah.
So it's quite serious.
Yeah. You see some pretty... I mean, we've... some of the stuff that like Paul's... so Paul Smith of the Sound Lab.
The Moog Sound Lab, yeah.
He's brought stuff in. He said, can you just look at this for me? So it'll be things that he's collected for bands over the years. And you do open it up and you just think, Paul, how did no one die on this? Because this is really not good. Or was someone trying to kill someone with this? Because it's
been put together in a way that
looks like it's actually like sabotage. And you just say, what is this? What is this?
How have you gotten yourself into this scrape?
Yeah.
I suppose things like, I talked to that Tom Furs, he was talking about, he couldn't have his musical organ, service because of just like the potential for there are too many parts, it's too risky, and it's a lot of meaty currents flowing around.
Was that where
old stuff?
Like old tubes and stuff like that. Or whatever. Yeah. And I can understand reluctance. I think it's always... It's funny now because the people that service that are always... it's like do you know photonic induction on YouTube?
No.
So he's this guy who... I don't know whether he was like a professional electrician or something, but his hobby was to take things like kettles and then say, right, we're going to put 3,000 volts AC over this instead of 240 and see what happens. And of course, the things, fire, smoke. And it's like, well, that was good fun, wasn't it? Great. We learned something today. So we learned that something is destroyed by over voltage. Yeah, of course. But it's always that kind of character now that services all this super... fragile, high voltage tube stuff, and they're great. They totally know what's going on. They're totally willing to do it, but at the same time, I think they've also committed in their head that they could die touching this, and they're fine with that. It's
they probably had a few jolts across the old cerebellum,
the old brain. Yes.
Lobotomize the danger part of your brain. Friend, open it up. So a little bit like Look Mum No Computer, who I've sort of commented I've commented multiple times in his videos. It's like, Sam, stop doing this because I'm going to read about you on the fucking news one day. It's like,
please don't die.
East London musician burnt alive in his studio by 10,000.
I think also with Sam, he knows far more than he lets on.
I mean, he's got a very kind of lackadaisical persona, which maybe hides the fact he does. I don't.
But that's the thing. I've seen people. Well, in any of this stuff. People will watch his videos and then comment whoa, you shouldn't be doing this because it, fools people into thinking that, this is safe and it's easy. And it's like, well, I mean, we've had stuff like that. This power supply panel and all that. I think I had some of those spare and I was like, look, if anyone wants to buy this, it's just an icy and some bananas. And people came after me saying that's really dangerous. Don't do that. You're inviting people to work with mains. And I'm like, yes, I'm inviting. What's the point? They're working with mains, but they should know what they're dealing with if they're going to do that. And I don't know. I don't know if that it's a genuine thing. Whether newcomers definitely actually look at that stuff and think I can do that. I mean, I know I certainly didn't when I started out. And then when the time comes when you finally do actually have to touch a piece of mains equipment and you think, well, I guess today's the day then. And you do it, and then, it's actually fine because I've been sensible, like...
But you need to have been trained to, like, know what the dangers are, surely.
Yeah, it's also kind of fairly obvious, like, what not to touch. So if something's live, probably a bad idea to touch anything, that side of the power supply. You're probably fine with, like, the main board as soon as you're working with, plus minus 15 or whatever, but you can
the raw inlet to the grid.
Yeah, and definitely it helps having done it a couple of times, I think, and then I'm not advocating that people go and electrocute themselves so they cross that frontier, but that's not what you want to do. But there's definitely a point where you kind of think, this is safe. I know what I'm doing. I mean, I haven't come into any danger in the last
20 minutes.
Well, 4 years, I guess, 4.5 years. So
that's good. Do you have a little thing at Future Sound System? Like 1,400 days since an accident.
We do actually have on the fridge now. We're using the fridge as a whiteboard. We do have days since last accident, and at the moment we're counting major accidents pretty much to whenever blood is drawn. Right. So
basic electrical shocks.
Yeah.
Count.
They don't count.
It's internal blood.
The pick and place machine that we've got, it's got a few rough edges. And I managed to just catch one finger on it, and it was just bleeding, but I didn't notice it. It was that much of a clean cut. And Jamie just whoa, there you go, major accident, fridge, 0.
Does the pick and place machine, is it sentient? If you consider putting your hand in the way, what?
It's a bit...
I'm curious, those things seem frightening, because it's that thing of watching a machine just go about its business at high speed, where it's just you've got this sense of a sort of alien being.
It's scary, because you look at it doing its thing, and it's like, this is the future. This is the future. But it's now,
Future sound systems.
Future sound
systems.
Yeah. It's just all branding, Alex, really. No, it's strange. It's a weird thing, because you know that it has some degree of intelligence because you've programmed it to have that intelligence. But then it's also really, really thick. So
it just put things. It's like, this goes here.
It does.
It doesn't. There's nothing there.
It's like training a child, because it's got a vision system on it. So you've got 3 cameras. Yeah, I know. It starts getting mad. So the head, like the bulkhead that does all the picking and placing. So it's got the 2 nozzles. That's got a camera on it, so you can look at all the feeders and all the component trays with that camera. So you can assign coordinates with that and say, go to there, pick that up with the first nozzle or the second nozzle. It knows the offsets between the nozzles and the cameras. And then it's also got 2 other cameras which look at the undersides of components once it's been picked up. If there's not a component on the end of the nozzle and there's just a bit of dirt on the nozzle, it will pick up the nozzle as shiny and then say that's a component, and then just try and place nothing. So it can be incredibly frustrating, because you're dealing with this system that's been advertised as, it's got an intelligent vision system, but the intelligence goes as to what's black and what's white on the pickup camera, and that's it. So it is kind of like,
it's better than nothing.
It's better than nothing, but it's also
not a lot better than nothing.
Yeah, it's also like, and you still have to look at the board at the end of it and say, well, that component's missing. I mean, it doesn't help at the minute. We're kind of struggling. One of the sides hasn't been calibrated or has fallen out of calibration in the shipping. So we've got to fit a new arm to that. But at the moment, it's at the point where it's like, it might pick up a capacitor, it might not pick up a capacitor. So then at the end of the board, at the end of the run, we've got to go back and look and say, well, no, that 201's missing, 205's missing, and then just rerun it on the computer. But again, that is so much faster than taking components off
bit by bit.
Were
you literally doing it by hand before?
Yeah, that was not fun.
By what magnitude has it sped up the process of?
When we're going full pelt, it's by 10. If we're having a slow and easy day, then maybe 4 or 5. But it's still ridiculous. I mean, the bottleneck has now moved from just getting the boards made to actually putting the pots and jacks on the board. because you can't do that by machine. So now we're like, well, can someone come in and just do the pots and jacks for us, please? And, and we've got several people that are doing that now. But it is crazy. I mean, I never thought, it was funny, your chat with Olivier, when he says that he's limiting himself by only having himself on board. I think that was kind of always the plan with Future Sound Systems, is that, well, if it is just me, or, if Jamie comes on board at some point, then it'll just be us, and we'll just do stuff, and there'll always be people that want stuff, so it's fine. But now it's at the point where it's like there's actual demand. It's not just I'd like that. It's I want that. I need that. Can I have it now, please? And we're in a good place at the moment because we've got all the direct backlog out of the way. But now we're dealing with retailers, and retailers are starting to say, well, where's my stuff?
We need like 10, 20, 30.
Yeah, which is great, and it's fantastic. But we've then got to set their expectations to be like, well, wait a month and a half. And we think when we send the email, it's loads of time. And then it comes to a month and a half, and we're like, we still haven't shipped those. But all of this stuff has happened in the meantime. So, it's getting there, but it's mad.
Well, how do you sum up the experience of running a Eurorack business in 5 words? What is the, a small cottage, a small country organic Eurorack business?
In 5 years, in 5 words.
In 5 years.
It's great. Don't do it. I would say it is great fun, and it is brilliant. No, I guess that it's great. Semicolon. Think about it. I think that's the thing, because there's so much that I've done over the years where I just haven't been prepared for, a pick and place machine, or even like a reflow oven. So I think like, oh, it's fine if the board's double sided, and then of course you get to the reflow oven and you're like, oh, but I've still got to do that secondhand manually, or I've got to start using like glue, and then the glue might not work, and all of that stuff.
Fall off later.
It's one of those things where you just got to think about it. And if you're like, I only want to be a guy with a workbench, in a shed somewhere, just doing what I do, and that's it, then great. But if you do have the feeling that you might want to expand, then make sure that you're engineering and designing stuff in preparation for that expansion.
That can be built at scale.
Because otherwise you will be just so frustrated with your own work later on down the line. And just thinking, why did I put these 4 components on the back? Why are there 4 components on the back here that could be done by machine?
So, I mean, what, like, with the business, like, what... I don't really understand what it is. Like, in the sense of... Because I also don't understand if are you full-time now? But you weren't always full-time. You still do things, and you still make music, and you're still... You're doing you have other projects, and you're doing, like, the gristalizer stuff, as, like, a licensed thing. And,
well...
I suppose, like, what is Future Sound Systems?
Future Sound Systems primarily is a modular synthesizer company. We're an audio equipment company, essentially. So... we are looking at doing things now outside of Eurorack, and there's a couple of things to come.
But when we say we, really, it's you.
Well, it's us now. It is Jamie and I. But I guess up until spring this year, it was just me. There's also the us factor with the gristalizer, because Roy Gwynn and Chris Carter have played a huge part in that. So, but again, those are Future Sound Systems products where we have essentially brought them on almost as subcontractors, and I say, at a certain end of sales, maybe every quarter, every 5 months, we've made this much. There's this much of a percentage, allotted to you. Here's your royalties, essentially. It's kind of a weird thing, because the way that I look at it is almost like how I imagine a record label to work. So you kind of like prepare something, and then you release it, and then. Whereas a record label would have like hundreds of things pressed, we then go, oh no, now we have to need to do all the pressings now. Great. But that whole like collaboration thing, I think, is something that we're really into, and we're talking to other people at the moment, and that seems very interesting. It's
a legitimate business now, and it is a limited company, and it is like this sort of
I mean, it's been a legitimate business since October 2014. I
Prior
guess.
to that was a legitimate business.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah. Again, prior to that date, it was kind of like, oh, someone's placed an order. That's beer money. You know,
So it just literally started with you. I suppose we should talk about you, like your background. You, this guy.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
So I born and bred in Gloucester.
Yeah.
So proper West Country lad.
Right.
And then
whereabouts in Gloucester? I don't know Gloucester very well.
So Longford.
Right.
So it's kind of as you're coming out of the town, you go through Kingsholm where the rugby ground is, and then you keep going out towards, I guess, the M5, and we're like just after Kingsholm.
For the benefit of folks who don't know the layout of the United Kingdom,
Yeah.
where are we looking on on the witch and the pig?
We are talking kind of where the River Severn comes in, so where you've got Wales and I guess southwest England. We're pretty much right at the kind of narrow end of the Severn entering the sea.
You're sort of like on the way to Devon and sort of Cornwallish.
Yeah, like if you were coming from Birmingham, and you wanted to go surfing, you'd probably go through Gloucester. Yeah, but
were you in a village or like in town?
No, like in town. So yeah, I mean,
town.
Gloucester's not a metropolis of
Isn't it?
Well, I don't know. Having left it, that's when like all the electronic gigs are happening at the town hall, and it's like, what's going on?
This wasn't funny.
And it's.
So what would you do when you were like a kid in Gloucester? Like, what is that?
Nothing really. It's very dead. I think this is the thing. This is kind of how this started, because it was. It gets the weekend, and I'm like, well, I want to make music, so and
where's that come from?
So you should get to that. So that came from. Me as a kid going through my parents' record collection, and I had a fascination with a Jean-Michel Jarre best of compilation that I think it went up to and included Zuluk. So when he got the Fairlight out and started,
nice,
yeah, and playing that as a really small kid, just over and over and over and over incessantly, and I guess like kind of getting to the degree of intelligence where I'm like, what is this? What's actually making all this sound? I want to know what this is. And then realizing, there's all these keyboard things. So start, learning how to play keyboard, and then realizing that, these are synthesizers. What are synthesizers? And then I think at that point, it was like maybe a few years after Korg had put out the first Electribes, so the EA1 and the ER1. And I think I asked for an EA1 for Christmas, and I think it might have been like a halvesies thing. So paid for half of it, and the other half was a Christmas present. And just playing with that and being able to and I think stuff on the computer as well. So like you get freeware, and I remember Vaz.
Yeah. Vaz was like modular, wasn't it?
Yeah. And learning like, what is resonance? And then you turn the resonance all the way up, and your speakers go, better not do that too much. And I think that was another. I think the first time I ever run into this, I went down to Emmis in Bristol.
Yeah,
because
Andy.
Yeah. Andy had the whole like synthesizer museum thing upstairs. And we were like, can we go and have a look? And he's like, yeah, come back in 3 hours. And I think he'd like move some boxes out the way, and we could actually go through it. And of course, like none of it meant anything to me at that point. But I was like, and downstairs, that was when he still had the Dopefer system in the showroom, and that was definitely one of those moments where I was like, okay, what's going on? Turn the resonance up, and then the whole thing just goes, and just say, whoa, I gotta turn that down. But that was definitely the first experience of like, this doesn't seem like a thing that you put on a keyboard stand and you with this. Why has it got cables on it? What are they all doing? And not understanding.
It feels like its own thing. You mean?
Yeah. Not understanding at the time what it was, and then I guess through software. Then playing with like things like Vaz, and then the Nord modular G2 thing.
Had one.
Well, I do now, but I was using the demo software for ages, which is
run it on the computer.
Fantastic. Yeah. So wasting probably days of my childhood playing with that. And then
What were you making? Were you making sort of like Drexciya style? Like
yeah,
electro?
I guess it was. Yeah, I guess it
That's
was
what I
like
wished I made back then.
stuff and just setting up. I remember I found all my old like Fruity Loop stuff a while back, and like the majority of it is complete dross, and then there'll be moments of it where it's like,
This is good.
what's that? How did I do that? That was amazing. And you think, oh, I've got to sample that, and but yeah, just terrible.
Were there
music.
lyrics at this point as well?
Bits and pieces, very questionable, bad lyrics.
But that's like all electro has terrible lyrics.
And I think that was kind of like the thing where it's like, well, you can get away with this because Kraftwerk got away with it.
Yeah, like Kraftwerk are like. I'm trying to think what is the worst Kraftwerk lyric?
It's got to be when you translate
radioactivity discovered by Madame Curie. Cool.
It's quite bad. But
you know the fact about radioactivity,
yeah.
Ralph.
And it's like I don't know. I remember listening to like Doppler Effect for the first time and getting is it the Gesamtkunstwerk, the black cover compilation thing, and just thinking all of the lyrics on this are terrible. Yeah. This gives me license to do whatever, And I mean that was a fair while later, but it's just I don't know. It was a weird thing, and like so I guess I got like a couple of really cheap virtual analog bits of gear. So it was like Korg A1, Korg ER1, Marker Korg. It got to a point where spending too much time on the internet and just looking at all this stuff and thinking, oh, what can I buy? What's out there? Stumbling across, analog seems to be this buzzword. And
when is this as well? What year?
This is. I mean, I first started building stuff in my early teens, so maybe this was kind of like 11, 12, I guess. And seeing this whole modular thing and people doing like DIY stuff and not understanding it at all. And just being like, how do you build this circuit board? And then it suddenly turns into a thing, and then you put it into a box, and how does that? What?
Like what?
And then, I think I was like 13 or 14. I think it was like 2004, 2005. Yeah, so I must have been about 13 when I started dabbling with electronics, and after realizing that analog seems to be this thing that is, but it's really expensive. But then when you actually start building it, it seems really cheap. So I think I built like a load of little 555 timer things, and half of those didn't work, but then some of them did, and you could connect them and make this raucous noise, and then if you tune them all the way down, you get this like pulsing. So that's kind of interesting because that's almost like a drum machine, but not. Bought the Sound Lab, the Music from Outer Space, Ray Wilson's Sound Lab PCB.
I looked at that loads, never was like, I just didn't know what to buy. The parts.
It's beautiful because I think again that was kind of just before I realised that you can buy all these components online. So I was going to Maplin,
brilliant,
and saying like, have you got rest in peace, R.I.P. in peace. I still have a love-hate relationship with Maplin because it was the glory days of going in and asking for a 10k resistor.
I mean, you were slightly younger, so it was never Tandy.
It was never. I think I have.
You maybe caught the very end of Tandy.
Yeah, very
so did I,
vague.
in fairness.
Very vague like recollections of my dad going into Tandy and like looking at something, and then me being like, this place seems really strange because it's not like I think I always
Daddy,
thought like,
it looks the same as the Warhammer shop.
Well, I think I was like, it's either B&Q or it's Sainsbury's, and there's nothing like this DIY wise. There's like it's B&Q. It's got to be B&Q. Yeah. And this place seemed to be like, well, they have tellies in here, but then they also have screwdrivers.
555 timers.
Yeah, what's that about? Going into these Maplin stores and then saying, oh, have you got 33 10k resistors, and they've only got 2. So it's like you then have to do the grand tour of Maplins and really annoy the parents by saying, well, can we go to the Cheltenham one? And then can we go to the Gloucester one? And then I know Swindon's quite far, but could we go to the Swindon one as well? And then the Bristol one as well seems to have this stuff. And then you get there and you say, could I have 5, some really bizarre value of cap, like 175 nanofarad polyester cap? And they're like, we'll have a look. And then they come out with this thing that's like that big, and it's bright red, and you think, I guess I can wire it in. So you've got, you end up with this thing that's like kind of in pieces. But you can put it behind a front panel and put it in a box and then switch it on, and it goes, down, down, down. And you think,
brilliant.
This sounds great. Like, I want this. I want more of this. And then it was, got into. I think just after that point, I must have hit like GCSEs, so did GCSE electronics. And then it was like, okay, this is how you lay out a circuit board.
Setting you up for the career.
Well,
that's
exactly.
why we have GCSE electronics, isn't it? So people become Eurorack.
And I mean, we joke, but that was kind of it. Like all the super early Future Sound System stuff that was like, it was pretty much taking a lot of textbook circuits. So things like, decade counters and... I did like a little transistor A-stable thing that was really, again, at the time, it was really interesting because it was like, this will do swung clocks. I can't find anything that would do swing. So there's just swung clock, even though it's this really like strange way of looking at it. That's kind of where all that early stuff came from, was like, well, you can apply this circuit to synthesis and that'd be great. And then kind of going in like as a lunchtime and saying to the... electronics teacher, like, oh, can I use the circuit board etcher and could I use the laser cutter? He's like, yeah, sure. Yeah. Just pay us for the materials.
No one else is here.
Yeah.
Finn.
Yeah.
You're the only one.
Yeah, but then, then again, it would be like you end up,
There weren't like you didn't have rival gangs of electronics manufacturers.
No. But it did get to a point where it's like you start plugging this stuff in. Of course, it makes a terrible racket, and people are like, "What are you doing? What is this?" And it's like, "Well, it's actually a modular synthesizer." And then I think at that point that was before Eurorack really took hold. So I was doing most of my stuff in 5U with these terrible like 2 or 3 mil acrylic panels, so you'd plug a jack into the middle of it and the whole thing would just flex. Yeah. And it's like, oh, this feels terrible, but it's making this great noise. So, at that point you had Make Noise had done it was the ring mod thing.
Yeah.
The promo video was mad because it was all cut up bits from like sci-fi films and stuff.
And it's like Tony through like a wobbling voice.
Yeah. Can't understand any of it, and it's like, what is this? What's the front panel?
Being all edgy.
Wow. Then there's me just like
your panels were quite edgy as well.
Putting Tipex on like acrylic, etchings, and just thinking, yeah, this looks good. You're right. And
I actually basically did that with my radio music. Oh, not my radio music. The Turing machine.
Yeah.
I basically infilled it with paint and wiped it off.
Yeah. So that was kind of like the very early days, and then going through Schaefer and paying like 50 quid for a front panel, and then it's like you realise that you've made the sale and you've made probably about £5 for like.
Oh, because you were building things for people.
4 or 5 hours work.
Brilliant.
And you think,
well done.
This is quite a bad way of doing things. So then you step that through, like, well, let's go to a local PCB company then, and let's do it that way, and let's go to local metal workers, and then.
What was your What were you selling? What was your big idea? What were people buying? What was the first thing you sold?
The first thing, the very first thing I sold outside of Eurorack was a circuit bent speak and spell.
Nice.
And I remember.
Actually got one next door.
Yeah, well, I remember several people telling me, I'll be amazed if you sell that for like anything. And it went for something like 60 quid.
Yeah, motherfucker.
And
like people want circuit bent speakers.
And me as a little kid at the time, I'm like, 60 quid?
£60?
That will buy me.
Run, Charlie, run.
Yeah. And it's like, well, and I think I got to the point I was looking. I think that was the first big purchase, was an Electron machine drum. And
fucking hell, that's a lot of 60 quid.
Yeah. But this is the thing. I was like, well, if I buy it from the States, and also at that point not having any idea about customs charges,
that import duty.
So that was a great one when that came. And I was like, yeah, there's
a man's
bill.
asked me for £350.
This doesn't make sense. And it also taking like 2 months. I think that was the.
Why did you buy it from the States as well?
But I think at that time, my complete ignorance was like, this is cheaper. Not understanding anything
the
about.
The reason it was cheaper is there was no VAT on it.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And
it was only 17.5% of that.
Yeah. And it's and then it's I've got to pay an extra £200. Oh, it's the same price, and I've waited 2 months. oh. And it was also, I remember that time being so impatient because it was the summer where all the floods hit, like Gloucestershire, Tewkesbury. Do you remember those photographs of Tewkesbury Abbey just being like, it had a moat, but it was, the moat was like Tewkesbury itself, and it was just underwater. Like people died and stuff like that. And I remember it was...
Did it affect your... What affected your ability to?
No, it was fine. Like for us, it was fine. I remember the one thing that we did have was I think that was like the last day of school for that year when all this rain came, and I remember my mum and I driving back and us trying to take all the different roads to get back home, because at this point we lived in Stroud, which is just south of Gloucester. So I was at school in Cheltenham, and we're doing this like bizarre kind of run back and trying to avoid the motorway because we know the motorway is underwater. So at this point, we're like, well, let's go up all the hills. So all the hills will be fine. But then you realise, well, wait, actually, we've got to go downhill, and then that's where all the water is. Right, okay, so let's go up round that hill. And then, and then in the middle of all this, I'm thinking, what if the machine drum's underwater? What if the machine drums?
What if they delivered it to the bottom of the valley?
What if one of those UPS trucks? It might have gone over in the flood. And you genuinely at that age just think, oh my god. And but I think that was off the back of like just selling a load of these bits of circuit bound stuff and odd things on eBay.
It's amazing.
And
what was it? And then you got it.
And then
it wasn't flooded.
Yeah, it wasn't flooded. It was fine. So after and
talk me through the unboxing experience.
Yeah, and well, it was one of those things where it's like, okay, I'll just pop it on my lap because you've gone through all the forums for like 2 months solidly waiting for this to arrive. And
would you say this is like the first best bit of kit?
Yeah, this was the first.
It was notably a step ahead of.
Yeah, this was the first. Like, I mean, I was. I think I said at the time, God, I'm not selling this. And then I did actually sell it because I got the UW version. I was like, I don't need the UW. I'm not into sampling.
I'm a man of synthesis.
Use someone else's sound. Oh. And then, of course, not realising that, oh, wait, you can actually take your own and then...
That sounds quite good as well. Anyway.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like, whoa, okay. I can do all Tekka with this. Amazing, And... just sitting down in the living room with this on my lap and a pair of cans on and just thinking, oh my God, this is amazing. And that I've still got a machine drum. It's not the one, but the whole Future Sound Systems thing was just to pay for me to get bits of gear, and just it was never anything serious. And then throughout, I think I ended up in sixth form when Sean at Analog Haven said, oh, can we have 10 of your decade counters? And I was like, whoa, 10? I only do batches of 10? That's a whole batch. What? So then having to get, a load of circuit boards made and panels.
Did they realise that you were in sixth form?
Don't think so. Don't think so. It was
Finlay Shakespeare. That sounds like a stand-up guy.
It was really funny. I had several people say, oh, we didn't realise that you're so young.
You're 9.
You were in your 50s or so. And I was like, no, sorry. I'm just a kid in his parents' garage,
it is quite a weird name, and you are a Shakespeare as well. So I guess Americans just think,
he's got to be
old school. He's related to old Bill and old family, old money.
And people don't realise that it is it's a fairly common name.
Yeah. You're not. Are you related?
Don't know. Well, he
could be.
This is the thing. As far as official records show, there's no real descendancy there directly because all of his kids died off really young. So unless they were very advanced in
their lovemaking
puberty
skills.
and having babies, then I don't think that happened. But there's who's to say that it's some long lost related thing.
But Finlay is a good Finlay. What's the middle name?
Brian with a Y, and Brian's after
Adams.
my granddad.
Brilliant.
So and Brian Adams.
Fantastic.
So I don't think my
definitely
parents
a
were fans.
child of the 90s.
I hope my parents weren't fans, but
I suppose it was your grandfather's name. Okay, it wasn't just they love Robin Hood.
No, it wasn't.
Robin Hood
I wanna love you forever, Canadian rock, and it is funny because I remember again going through that late teenage period, and it's like, hey, let's go to a club, and then you show a bouncer your ID, and it's instantly the McLovin thing, and people think,
Like, fuck off.
No, go away. Yeah. I'm like, no.
It's my boyish. Boyish.
That's my real name. And they're like, well, can you prove it? And so, well, here's my bank card. Here's like another card. Like, that is my name. And they're like, oh, sorry. Go in.
Yeah.
It's like, I've had that a few times. And like, even now you get people saying like, what's a made up name? It's like, no, it's not. It might be like the best not real made up name that is, but I don't know. That, sounds made up, but isn't. So, I don't know.
But I like the idea that, you're in sixth form doing sales to Analog Haven.
Yeah. And Sean's just like, oh, what's your trade price? And like, what?
My what? My what?
Well, my RRP is this. And like, yeah, but what's your trade price? And I don't know. Take a third off? Does that sound okay?
How much margin do you need?
And then it's like. Well,
I hope you did do the math. Like, I won't financially ruin myself.
I was like, if I do 10 of these, then I can buy a mono machine. So I think that's what I did. I think I made those 10. I got the cash back in, and I bought a mono machine. And then it was I was definitely at that point where I was like Untilted by Autaka and listening to that, like the recordings off that tour, and I'm like, I just want to do that. I just want to be Sean Booth. Give me a machine drum and a mono machine.
Did you have a North Face jacket as well?
That's the thing. I needed the North Face jacket and I never got one.
Well, you needed your money for the machines.
Yeah.
North Face jacket's like a ton.
It is now the case where whenever I meet anyone in kind of that circle and they're wearing a North Face jacket, I can't. Like, I've just got to go away for a few minutes, laugh it off, and then come back in.
I did see a picture of Boards of Canada from like the 90s, and they were wearing North Face jackets. I was like, that's
it's a conspiracy. I'm sure like someone at Warp has shares in the North Face, and it's like, here you go, we've got all these free jackets, just wear them.
Just wear them. It's just like viral marketing on like North Face's part, like just endorsing sort of IDM artists from the 90s.
Do you like difficult rhythms? If you like difficult rhythms, you'll probably like the North Face. Like where has it come from?
And then also they are from the north is the thing.
Yeah. Most of them are northern
Scotland, Sheffield. You need a good jacket.
Yeah.
It's cold.
Yeah, it is cold. It is cold
as well.
But then Warp are in. Well, I guess Warp were Sheffield, weren't they?
They were Sheffield.
So that would make sense.
It's a Costa now. Their old office. Yeah. It's a Costa. Of course, it's a Costa. It's all a Costa. The old record shop and like.
It's mad. Though I went to like the Bleep office a while back, and it was really odd because when you have expectations of a place being like, well, they're affiliated with Warp, so it's going to be really weird and wacky. And there's just an office.
It's a nice office. Near Hampstead or Hampstead?
Yeah, they said the only place I can base it off is they said they were near Juno, and I don't know where Juno are. It's.
I think Bleep has moved.
It is
I haven't been to the Warp.
Yeah,
the Warp offices.
I think
it's just a nice open plan office.
They're going to be lovely,
really pleasant, and it's got some amazing pictures on the wall where there's like the 90s. There's like a 90s pic.
Yeah.
And it's like all sort of on white, and it's all their artists who I think have been photographed separately. They're not all there.
Yeah.
And there's basically like who is in that? Well, basically the two most notable for me is like there's just Mark Bell just there, just sort of stood looking like serious, and then there's like Richard RDJ, and he's like cross-legged on the floor, like pulling his face into a horrible like the camera, just like, which is
everybody say cheese. It is kind of weird though. Like you suddenly realize that a lot of this stuff and working with Chris and people like that, you suddenly realize that like all of that whole teenage thing of these people being gods,
they're godly people.
And they're just people, and they've just been doing this thing, and all of the the hype and the praise and all of that history, it doesn't come from them.
No.
Not to devalue what they did, because it is groundbreaking and it is innovating, but all of that comes from mainly journos and fans who rave about it, and all they really want to do is just get on and make music. And I guess it's why like Aphex is this slightly mysterious figure,
because he much prefers to just get on
with it and just do what he wants to do rather than having to deal with all of this fame essentially. That is what it is. And But then once you actually start dealing with these people and you get to know them, they're just really nice people. And you do just want to go down the pub and have a pint because, you know, it's a really interesting conversation and they're nice.
What were you? So you were listening to Autechre at the time. You were were you wanting to be Autechre basically?
I think it was a bit of that. It was definitely because through the teenage years, I guess it was like, well, I've done, you know, it's that whole like line of listening. So you start off with like Jean-Michel Jarre through that. Yeah. Then you find like, oh, there's also, you know, Kraftwerk, and there's this whole like European thing where it's like, well, are you into Jean-Michel Jarre or are you into Kraftwerk?
Kraftwerk,
and,
for me,
I
hate Jean-Michel Jarre.
It's listen to Equinox. Listen to Equinox. Yeah,
is that the one?
The B side of Equinox is like Drexciya in 1978.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Right,
like
take it all back.
Part 6 into 7. That 10 minutes. This is really like, you know, anorak, get the anorak out. But those 10 minutes, it struck me at some point. I think again, like as a teenager, I was like, this is techno. This is techno.
Yeah.
But it's 10 years. It's 10 years. You know, and it's like, like Kraftwerk were doing like a similar thing in a lot of ways. But this is more like the, you know, pads. Almost like ambient techno kind of end. Like this kind of could be on Selected Ambient Works and all that kind of stuff. And you think, oh, that's put a new spin on it. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I've realised like my interest or my love for like electro and those things has come from like certain sounds like Orbital, realising that Orbital basically were an electro.
Yeah, completely.
Like insides.
Yeah,
it's like all like snappy, sharp. Little like twinkly melodies and stuff. It's all that kind of vibe.
But I also think like, and I don't know whether that's from their own. I don't know if they meant it to be.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they did.
But
they came from the sort of loving John Barry and stuff. It's like quite not that background.
And like Out There Somewhere, like the level of, you know, amazing musical theory that's in that and how all the harmony resolves, and it's amazing. And you think, did they know that they were doing that? Like you come from like, again, this is like, you know, you're doing A-level music and all that, and you just spent like hours like doing Bach chorales and all that, and thinking, oh, this is relevant. It's relevant. Yeah, it is relevant, but it's not. Ugh. And then you listen to Orbital on the way home and you think, this is Bach. They're doing Bach, but this is with like 303s and an 808 behind it, and it's amazing, and it's not boring, and it's not all about, you know, like the Lamb of God is coming to, you know, stay with us and eat our gravy, and you know, you just think this. It's that whole thing of like, if. Again, it's coming back to the whole praise thing. It's like, that's what I'm hearing in this, but they probably had no intention to do that, unless they did. I don't want to do them down and say, you know, what you weren't thinking about.
Well, but it's they were just making music, but it's like it slots into a certain style that you later realise that you really like, and you didn't realise that it was. That's probably was the music that was setting you up to like those things, or at least it was your first. Like Selected Ambient Works, 88 to 92. Is very electro, and it's super
hugely.
electro,
mega
electro, and it's like, and at the time as well, it is electro, but I don't think Aphex gets credited as being an electro artist.
No, and it is.
He's not, maybe not now, but
it's funny because it is like all of those guys have a huge part in bringing like Drexciya to the at least to the fore now. I mean, I definitely think I've got no idea what their listener base was at the time, but
who Drexciya?
Yeah, but then you realise what it's like. Well, hang on a minute. You had an EP on Warp, and then you did Electroids on Warp. Is that through, you know, Aphex, Autechre, all those people saying, well, you should listen to these guys? There's like the ARPANET and Doppler effect stuff on Reflex, and you then realise, well, yeah, this is all interconnected, and it is quite interesting, and you know, all these people that are doing like more difficult stuff, actually at the end of the day, they just really love going home and listening to like really good electro and really good, you know, here's an 808, here's a nice riff, great.
I do struggle with the difficult, like it's a lot of, I mean, this is heresy, but a lot of like, you know, Drexciya and so forth can be difficult. It's difficult. I don't enjoy it. I need like, you know, there's that, for me, the absolute holy sweet spot is that De Cyclus comma EP.
Oh,
whatever,
yeah.
which is like those 4 or 5 tracks.
Yeah.
That to me is like the very sharp edge of the prism of what I want from just just spooky, the spookiness, the relentless 808, and like, but the funk, interwoven, but it's dark, and then the lyrics, which are just nonsensical and stupid, but then they can be, you know, like, you know, the fucking what's the tune, almond mochaccino.
Oh yeah.
What is it called?
Sipping my latte.
Right.
It's other people placing it. It's like Sorrow and a Cup of Joe.
Sorrow and a Cup of Joe.
Yeah. This is great.
That riff line.
This is great.
That weird chord, whatever it is. I mean, that's just, it's gold.
It just seemed like that was in no way intentional, but musically that's genius.
It's fantastic.
That is amazing.
Yeah, and
that kind of
you can hear how it was written as well. You can hear that he was just like frigging around, made that little progression. He's like, oh, I'm going to go to the 808. And just like...
But again, you sit
sing
like,
over it.
I remember being at university so many times, and you're sat in these, like, you know... Because so the course I did was like more audio engineering, but then you kind of have to do a few music modules. So... you get, you know, some of the music lecturers saying like, wow, the harmony on this is, it's really fruity, you know. And you think like,
fruity.
You have...
That's a bit creepy. Please back up.
You know, you're putting all this faith in the people that wrote that they knew that that's what they were doing. And I'm sure they weren't. You know, I think this was just some like indie band, and it's like there's some... like interval on top of the chord that maybe doesn't make sense, and it's like I'm sure that's just a happy accident. And like, you know, with so much of this electronic stuff, but I do wonder whether, you know, maybe in 20-30 years time academia is then going to say, oh, listen to Drexciya, listen to what they're doing with all these like harmonies that aren't, you know, they're super jazz, and it's like,
because they didn't know what they were doing. They were just farting around. Just they had an MPC. They were farting around.
Yeah, exactly.
And they just hit record.
Yeah.
And selected the steps. That's why it fades in and fades out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
7 out of 48 minutes, probably.
Yeah.
Right.
But I don't know. It's kind of a mad thing, and you can be. I think this is kind of where I've been in the last few years. Is like I still love all of that really abstract like IDM stuff, and I will definitely listen to whatever, you know, like Autechre or Aphex or, you know, Venetian Snares does next. But I've then realised that actually I think what I really love listening to is just like, here's a drum beat, here's a riff, there might be some vocals on it, and it's just really good. And it's like, you know, it's like a 4 or 5 minute pop tune. And you know, part of you just think like, oh, I'm just listening to pop music, aren't I? But of course, you know, you're not.
But that's
really.
What, like, I remember reading an interview with Square Pusher where he was like, you know, like, I decided to like stop using melodies because it's just too easy. Do it all with drums, innit? Like, all right, no, whatever. It's like I've mastered melodies so much. Fucking want to have one hand bar on my back because I'm just too good on the QY 700. Like,
but that's kind of what I love about like the most recent Autechre stuff is where, like, you know, on Untilted there's melody, on Oversteps there's like melody to a degree, Chorustis there is, and then, you know, where they kind of get really back into Max and they're just like, we don't need this. This isn't what's interesting about what we're doing. What's interesting is like all the sound design and all the sequencing stuff, and that's what we should do. And okay, well, let's just do that for like 4 hours worth of material.
Some difficult, wobbly,
Here
like
you go.
Strange time signature, like insanity. This
is great.
That sounds like a DX7 in a washing machine.
Yeah, and it's like I just. And you try and present that to people that like have absolutely no experience of, you know, any electronic music,
let alone.
My
dad's just like, what is this?
And it's like, well, it's genius because like they've said, we're not interested in melody anymore. Let's just make a really, really, really amazing like drum sound that sounds like it's melting as you hit it. And it's like, that's great. And they're like, I don't want to listen to that. I do. Leave me alone. Just sat in the corner.
I don't know how they do it. What parameters do they give themselves?
Well, I cracked one thing a while back that was like, I think this is the thing. Because like a lot of the untilted stuff, I was like, how are they doing that? And then you buy the Electron gear and you're like, oh, right.
That's how they're doing it.
But then, of course, now they're back into Macs. It's like, oh, well, it's like, how do they do it on this? But in software, you know. And there's one thing that they're doing a lot in the more recent stuff that sounds like, to me, it sounds like, again, like a drum's being hit, and as it's being hit, it's either shattering or it's melting. That's the kind of like image I get in my head, and it's like a frequency shifter in the feedback loop of like a Carpler Strong thing. So you're exciting this thing, and then to get all the like decay as you would with a drum, you're actually frequency shifting it. But as that's like also shifting what you've excited it with, you get all this extra harmonic stuff on top. And then of course you start modulating that and you just get all this like stuff. And it's like, oh my God. And doing that on the Nord G2 stuff. So again, a couple of years back, I actually bought the G2X,
the actual
keyboard, the keyboard
one,
yeah.
The little,
so,
like, knobby,
and you're like, oh great, I can load all these patches in, and there's loads of processing power. I mean, that's like 15 years old now, however old, but there's still loads of power in it. Yeah. And you think like, well, I could get pretty close to like Eventide-esque stuff with the amount of DSP I've got in this, and you start putting all these patches in and then start getting it all, you know, controllable on the actual unit itself. And that's where it's like, this is amazing. This is actually amazing. And you start to look at this and you think,
touch limited, isn't it?
I love this. But then I think that's where I realised like what I love about this is the sound of it. And there is, you know, there's all the best analog filters out there sound really good, and digital won't, in my opinion, it won't give you that ever.
Digital filters will never sound as good.
I don't think you can. I mean, even like
they will sound nice, but they will not sound like the.
It's like this. So the Erica Polyvox filter, I have a love-hate relationship with this so much.
Why do you hate it? Why do you hate it, Finn?
Because I end up taking it out the rack so much to fix it.
Oh shit!
So many times I'll be like, oh, why is there no bass line? Oh, and then you trace a signal back through and it's like, oh, it's the Polyvox again. Oh, great. But that, I don't think you could ever model what that does in software.
Because it's too weird.
Yeah, because like, so...
Why don't you play it?
Well, it's, right.
We can do that.
Yeah, we can.
This
actually,
is on. Oh, this isn't just for show. Jesus Christ.
Is it really
oh my
loud?
God.
So...
Whoa.
Yeah, it's real.
Fucking heck.
Again, there's so much going in. I mean, all I'm really sending that is just a straight square wave.
So you're sending the braids.
It's going through this as well.
It's going through the Grisalizer TG4. Who makes that piece of shit?
I think it might be Future Sound Systems.
Oh yeah, and it's got a lightning bolt that literally activates. When does the lightning bolt light up? Because I've been playing my 808 through it. It sounds good.
That's when it hits the clipping really.
The good.
Yes, the good. So when you start really saturating the like FET stage and that's when
the problem is that like, you know, from a usability perspective, as a user, I'm like, well, it's not working unless the lightning bolt.
Yes.
You're effectively aesthetically punishing your users for not clipping the module.
I think a lot of people have done that. A lot of people have been like, well, as long as it's
lighting,
let's see if we can get it to actually. There you go. That's. So what I've done with this is I've got this CV2. The CV2 on the filter is taking the output back in to modulate the cutoff. So you've got the whole cross modulation.
Oh yeah, I like that. I've done that on the Mother 32. The Mother 32, if you feed the cutoff back into itself, it does a wild rasp.
Yeah, but it's what's lovely. Yeah, I can do that with this. It will just give you a completely different character.
Oh,
if I take the drive down on the TG4 a bit, and that's just
nice.
But then you bring the resonance right up, and you get that.
Oh, it's waspy.
Yeah, really. And And of course, having the sync on it is great, because you just get all of these weird. I mean, what is that? It's amazing. Get software to do that.
Yeah, I know.
You know, and
yeah,
it just won't happen. I don't think it will happen.
What is happening inside it that makes it do? Why do filters do that?
I don't really know. I mean, it's Rob Hordyke made a really good point as to any filter is a chaotic system. So you can do this whole thing with chaotic networks where you get
Celtic networks.
Celtic networks. Yeah, go up to Scotland, and you can get like chaotic networks to resonate at half the like expected fundamental or something like that.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it's too much math. But so you get the octave below what you expect, and I was like, okay. And he's like, well, filters do this. And I'm like, oh wait, I think I've heard this, and you can do it. It's like this whole. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it on this, but I think it's.
You're on the spot, so if you can't, everyone will judge you. Oh, that's.
I think it's like. Oh no! That's the wrong one. That's why.
Oh, hello.
You can kind of get it. Maybe this. Again, there's all that weird. Like, it's not going where you expect it at all.
This little moment, if taken out of context, is just like looking across, just seeing you, just like thinking while you this meow cat sound is.
Again, I mean that's kind of the bed of this thing. The spectral
future sound systems.
The future sound systems.
Spectral devastator. Is that like the electron digitony?
Digitony. The synthesizer.
And the new mutable instruments plates. Do you know,
like spinning them.
When the Gilet sent that through, I was like, my first reaction was like, mate, everyone's going to say this wrong.
Plates.
I initially was like, why have you called it plates? And I was like, oh right, braids, plaits. But I had to genuinely, because I kept like hearing it in a French accent, so I was just like, I had to spend some time before I could work out. Oh no, it's plats. Plats. Because I've just not said the word plats in 20 years at least. Because
but it's
I've not
English,
encountered. It was only in school when people had plaits. Plaited hair.
It's the English language is stupid, because I remember someone asking me, "Oh, do you like Plaid, like the band Plaid?"
Oh yeah.
And we just kind of like,
you mean played?
You mean played, don't you? You mean played, and then realising years
plaid?
Later it's plaid.
It fucking is plaid. Oh no.
And then just being like, I've been an idiot for all those years. I mean, thinking like Untilted is untitled.
That's good.
Because
Untilted
every
is great.
time you've read it, it's untitled.
Well, isn't that because that's how we read words, isn't it?
Yeah,
you
it's
read
the whole
front and back of the word.
Dyslexic thing, and you know, oh no, actually just take some time to read the
fucking
thing.
Word, mate.
Yeah.
Like the large, or not small, cottage, but fantastic synthesizer brand that begins with M and ends in G.
It is Moog.
It's Moog.
It is Moog.
Get it right. Moog.
It is Moog, and it has to be Moog. But I still love that. Have you seen the snippet from? I think it's like the outtakes of that Moog film, where they asked Bob Moog, like, "Well, is it Moog or is it Moog?" And he's like, "I don't really care. I don't really care."
He's like, well, he sort of says like, "It's Moog," but like part of my family said certainly
Moog.
Moog.
Okay.
Can't really do a Bob Moog impression. We were doing impressions of other manufacturers earlier. Do you have any good impressions? Bear in mind they will hear this. I'll edit this out.
I don't have any good impressions.
Do you have any bad impressions?
I'm trying to think of who I can do, and it won't be offensive.
I'll edit it out. Unless it's brilliant.
I think it's just I always caricature us as. Well, it's like the whole. So we went to Superpith, and it's like, well, we're not gonna rebrand ourselves because it's the first time at Superpith, but we should have some kind of new brand thing.
Because you're becoming a limited.
Because
company.
it's because
and you've got some new modules.
Well, it's some new modules, and it's new modules that, like, you know,
make it a system.
They're not really as you'd expect. So it's like, this is a high pass and low pass filter, but half the time they don't actually filter, and it's more just like, you know, something shrieking in your face constantly. Because that's you know,
that's Finn.
I remember I was testing a lot of these the other day, and Jamie just turned around to me and he was like, that's the most Finlay Shakespeare thing I've ever heard in my entire life. What are you doing? And I'm like, I'm sorry. This is what you've just bought into. I'm really sorry. Yeah, it was just like, should we patch it up?
Why have you not? You need plats because you need like the sort of the Armand Mochaccino chords.
No,
because it's got the chord mode.
Chords. I was actually thinking about this. No,
Get out of my house.
I was thinking about this the other day. I
don't like chords.
No.
What does that even... That's stupid.
It's not that. I don't mean that. What I mean is what I would do, I think, live, is if I wanted to go poly, I would have a proper poly. And that's the thing with plats. The only reason I'd be getting it is to do a poly thing. But I'm like, at that point, it was like...
That's nice.
That's
a nasty sound.
That's a nasty sound. I think it was something like, and then there was, it would have just been like an LFO on, is it on the colour maybe? It was something like that, and then maybe both of them in series. Something like that.
Sounds great.
And it was just like,
but for a solid half an hour.
Yeah. Like, is this the rest of my career now? Like,
just look across.
I'm sorry.
Your ears are gently bleeding.
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah, maybe more so. Yeah.
That's a good sound.
So again, that's a high pass and low pass filter. So we kind of said, well, let's maybe say, like, let's try and think of something that can kind of sum this up. And I'm like, well, people from the West Country have a certain adoration of cider. And all I could think is that, like, well, the people that design this stuff must like spend about 4 of the 5 days of the working week just drunk on cider. So it became, and also the whole West and East Coast thing. I'm like, well, it's West Country synthesis.
Brilliant.
So if you just
you have a thing with West Country synthesis?
Is West Country synthesis since I think 2005 is now.
Do you know, I've never really realised that you were saying like West Coast, West Country.
Yeah. Because it's rubbish.
What you should say is West Coast synthesis.
West Coast.
Just put West Coast, but mean the West Country.
The West Country, yeah.
Because it will just mean one thing, the wrong thing to everyone. Like,
but just have this, complete.
Is this what cider? Is this the product of cider and electronics?
So this was a thing from uni originally. So the Phil 2 that came before it.
Phil,
yeah, good old Phil.
Phil's Harmonic Orchestra.
Yeah.
I want to call an EP Phil's Harmonic Orchestra, which would be fun, great.
I'll mute that now.
It's fine. I've enjoyed my time with the Devastator. It's called a Spectral Devastator.
Spectral Devastator.
Really polite name.
It was
welcoming.
There was like an electronics module in the university course, and then you go like, oh, okay, well there's this really stock low pass filter circuit. How am I going to make that voltage controlled? And then stumbling across these things called JFETs and saying, oh, okay, so you can set these up as voltage controlled resistors. That seems quite interesting because that's what you want in a filter. You want, VC over resistance. And I had, put it on the breadboard, and I think this was now second year of university. So I've like modelled it on this really terrible circuit simulator, and I'm like, well, that's doing all the rounding off of all my sharp edges. Great, brilliant, great. Put it on the breadboard, plug it in, and I've got all the pots dangling off, and just pop the speakers on. This whole like thing comes out, and I'm like, ship it. This is the best thing I've ever done. And that was essentially it. And and looking back at it now, knowing a bit more about how these things work, it's completely wrong. It's so completely wrong.
That sounds like the Plague Bearer. It's that vibe. It's like, and when you read the description, whatever happened to the dude from the Plague Bearer as well, or from?
I think he is Flight of Harmony.
Flight of Harmony.
He's still doing stuff,
which is a great name. For
it's amazing.
A brand, the Flight of Harmony.
Yes,
and Harmony has flown.
It's
and it's a wicked distortion. And also it's like it's kind of a filter, but don't ask me the topology. People ask me, and it's like I've never measured it. I don't know what it is. Just put stuff in and mangle it.
This is the thing, because that thing, like, it will roll stuff off, and people have said, well, have you got a curve for it? I'm like, yeah. So, we're now like I think the next. It's not even really much of an investment, really, but we're going to buy a few bits of gear so we can actually do some test curves and things like that. And that is the first thing that I want to run through it, because I do want to just see, like, well, what happens if you put this into sensible mode and then put a sine wave through it? Because at the moment, well, what it does, it's not even at the moment. What it does is this.
It passes through completely untouched.
You get
what? Sounds like that's a pulse wave.
That's at the bottom of the cutoff. So what you're doing is you're essentially bringing in harmonics as you're supposed to be closing them off. So that doesn't make any sense. And then you bring the resonance up, and of course it starts doing that.
What?
And then into that. So this is where you get all that, going back to like the harmonic locking and like half the fundamental stuff.
Harmonic locking would be a cool name for a techie, like electro kid. Whoa.
So you get all that, but then when you take it into Sawtooth, you do get more of a filter.
Oh yeah, but a sine wave doesn't. Sine wave makes it go fruity. What an interesting, circuit.
So again,
thanks for showing us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Finn, for showing us that today.
That's how I imagine all AES conventions to be like back in the 60s and 70s.
We discovered when we put the sine wave through the filter. Unfortunately, strange in home. It's the
we put a medium sliced loaf into
the results were disappointing.
It is that.
We put a sine wave through our strange electronic sonic devastator washing machine, and it comes out, and my ears are bleeding.
It comes out like where's it gone? Oh, I can't find it. Oh, it's gone forever.
That's like have you watched Look Around You? I mean, I'm going to try and attempt to describe a skit which just is never funny, but it's basically, the premise is like, this is the Boîte Diabolique. And it's like, it's basically an episode of music, and the Boîte Diabolique is it's basically, there's a picture of an upright piano, and on the right-hand side of a piano is a small, like, extension of the keyboard that's in a kind of locked case. This is the Boîte Diabolique. Okay. It contains the 19 forbidden notes.
That's a module name. Next.
The Boîte Diabolique is the name of a system.
Yeah.
You would call it the Boîte Diabolique.
Yeah. Well, there you go. You've just named our first system. We just need an envelope now, and then I think we're good. You've just got to
give one to Peter Serafinowicz.
Yeah. Have you ever tried modular?
He does make electronic music.
No way.
Yes way.
No way. Really?
Friend of mine has sold stuff to him. Yeah, he's got like he does it.
Oh wow, that's amazing. All I can think now though is like Brian Butterfield making techno. It's just like Saturday is Drexciya Day.
You can literally have any beats you like.
Underwater bonbons.
Almond mochaccino.
Yes. Sipping on the latte.
Sip on the latte. Cafe. Laptop.
I don't know. It is weird that, isn't it? How it's like people that you never thought would be into this stuff.
J.J. Abrams.
Yeah. Massive
Abrams.
synth nut. Like,
Ross Lamond. It's like he showed me. He's got this like fucking like signed thank you note from J.J. It's like what?
And I mean, there's people that you do expect. So like Chris Morris and all that did a load of music for all his stuff. And then, I mean, going completely the other side of the spectrum, like Alex Jones and all that.
Yeah, Alex Jones, where he's doing like, but in the background there's a fucking there's like a Juno or like a rave. I can't remember what he's got. What's in his studio?
It's like an acid setup, isn't it? Yeah. It's like 909808 303.
That's a 303 on that. I can't do a very good.
It's a real ladder filter. It's a real ladder filter. I mean, I hope he's playing a character. I really hope he's playing a character because I don't understand how you can come out with such.
She's a demon. She's a demon.
She's a lizard person. And then also actually be a fan of like music that is supposedly it is tolerant and inclusive of everyone, and it's like it has to be because of its own origins. Like you can't make electronic music and
maybe he's like the one person who's making techno who's really actually angry.
Yeah.
Actually angry.
I don't know.
I'm angry music because I'm angry. God damn it.
Electro is for lizard people. Hillary listens to electro. Wouldn't you believe it? It would have to be like crappy. Well, does that exist? Does crappy electro exist? Like, I think you can definitely have like crappy techno, crappy house. But
I would say there's some electro tunes that really should do more than just one thing.
Yeah,
and they really only do one thing.
Yeah, one
they
thing,
fade in. They're like a sausage. They fade in, do their thing. I mean, sometimes that's amazing.
Plank.
Planking of a music design.
I've made some. That should be a genre though. I've made some really banging plank tunes.
Planks, which are just like 1 minute, just fade in.
It's become like an office joke that everything. Well, it's kind of like a universal meme that everything is Sandstorm, isn't it? But like, is this Darude? Is this Darude? Just like there's been a massive like climactic. Nothing. Shh. And then 5 seconds later, and you think like, well, that happens so much in like rock music, and you just think this is Darude. This is Darude.
Have you done it?
And it's Sandstorm, but on guitars, 20 years before,
Structure.
But whereas then you listen to like Captain Beefheart, and that's like a very warped plank. It does nothing, but it does everything,
bit like Corteca.
Exactly. It's like I'm listening to some of that NTS stuff. You think like, it's been going on for 20 minutes and nothing has happened.
Some of these tunes are like long. They're durational.
Yeah.
I was like, I was literally listening to one. I was like, oh, this is still going. I'm doing some work. I'm like, it's still the same track.
Yeah. It's really
it's
strange.
24 minutes long, but it's
really
not like fucking Autobahn that goes through like movements. There is
the
like, Autobahn. Like, I mean, I don't speak ill of like the gods, but there are. I mean, obviously, some of Kraftwerk is incredibly cheesy and has really awful lyrics. With that said, an Autobahn, there's like a moment. I can't now think of how it goes. Oh, it's like the flute bit. There's like an amazing flute bit.
Yeah.
And I was listening to Autobahn, and I was like, Autobahn is like mixed with weird nostalgia for me because it was used in old like it was like the TV like I was about to say the TV loading screen. It was the countdown to the sort of program beginning, which is obviously very proto look around you in things that we watched at school or on VHS.
Right.
And it was Autobahn, so now it feels like strange and cheesy and like meow, meow, meow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a beautiful melody. Anyway, my point is a lot of it's cheesy and weird, but then it's got that flute bit, which is really short. And it's like, I think it's the bit that's like and then it just goes into like a wicked
bit as well. There's guitarism.
Is it guitar?
There's
basically a few moments.
It's in that bit with the flute as well. It's either before or after it where it's definitely some kind of plucked thing. I don't know. It's almost like it's a lute. Yeah. But it's. I think it's just like a really badly recorded guitar.
But
you just think this is amazing.
It's those bits in tunes where they've. My point is here where it's those amazing bit in tunes that only last like 4 bars. And then are taken away. Of which there are many in Aphex Twin. Complex
100%.
Aphex tunes where he's just fucking showing off. Because it's like right sandwiched in the middle of 10 movements is this like 4 bars. We're like, oh, fuck off. Like that would be amazing on its own.
I can't remember what I was listening to something really recently.
The other one is Primal Scream on Screamadelica.
There's loads.
There's loads of that, but there's the one where it's like the rave piano. It's like the M1, like which would be an amazing rave tune by itself, but it's just 4 bars and then goes away. And it's all part of the outro. Where
I can't remember what I was listening to, but it was like
stuff on in the end.
I really want to figure it out now. And it went into almost like this kind of like. Almost like Indian, is it like rag? The raga kind of thing? for about like, again, 4, maybe 8 bars, and I was just like, oh my God. And then
Took it away.
That will come to me later on. I'll suddenly,
you'll get it
interrupt
tomorrow when you're having a poo.
flow. Yeah. You're like, oh, put this in the thing. No, it's gone.
It's like,
It's gone. It might have been, we were listening to like ZZ Top the other day. It might have been something like that, where you just think, whoa, you've suddenly gone from like this really like, bluesy thing to, whoa.
but then I sometimes think, I'm like, do you even know what you've got if you didn't milk that for the last 5 minutes of the song or something? But obviously they do. It's just just showing off. People are really fucking good at music. Well, so talking about your music, you make music.
I make music.
You make music, and actually, I'd never heard your music. And then it's like, I'll hold your hand in a sec. But like that, I was like, fuck, Finn's tunes are like, you were putting up. I saw you like posting. You were like, house diet. House diet. Here's another house diet. And I'm like, what the fuck is a house diet? Move on. And I was like, not looking. Don't know what that is. Don't know what a house diet is. Continue.
Yeah.
And then it was some time later that I realized that house diet was music, and it was music that you were posting.
Yeah.
And then I actually...
It's not some Alex Jones nutritional...
Like, here's my new house diet.
Plan, no.
My house diet's going very well. Like, house diet update.
I've put on 2 pounds. Yeah.
That's the house diet. And basically, this is a long-winded way of saying, I finally listened to some of your... Actually fucking listened to some of it. I was like, this is really good.
Thank you.
I really like it.
Thank you very much.
I know it's quite weird to give people compliments to their face, but I was like, genuinely, actually really like this. Because it sounds like... What were my description? I can't remember how I described it. But basically, you've got like a bit of David Byrne vibe in your like vocals. But then it's married with... What's the sort of... How would you describe the electronics... The electronics pieces. Do you call them pieces?
I don't know what it is. It's tracks. It's just stuff.
Tracks.
It's I think. So I'll tell you what it came from. Eden Gray.
Yes.
So she put on one of her CV Freaks things.
Free acts.
And she was like, "Oh, do you want to play?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Well, if I'm going to do it, I should do modular only, because I think at that point I was still doing like, here's really fast IDM-ish stuff with electrons and no one can dance to it because it's too fast. I was like, no, I should do something completely different, and let's do it with the modular. Let's try and get the modular involved. I did this like completely improvised thing where it's like, right, I'm going to sing with this as well.
Wait, back up. You're going to sing.
I'm going to sing with this.
You're going to sing a fucking modular synthesizer.
Thing.
The hell do you think you're doing?
It's lunacy. So
did everyone just like turn around like...
They were... It is that whole thing of like...
Especially also because they're like, it's Finn's singing.
Yeah. Like, well, I didn't know that you do that. And it's like, well, I haven't made a big
face.
thing. Yeah, like I've got vocal... Okay. And it is a thing, like, played a gig last night and people say like, well, I didn't realise that you sing. And it's like, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to go up to people and be like, hey, I'm Finlay Shakespeare. I sing.
Finlay Shakespeare, singer.
Finlay Shakespeare, not twiddler, singer, button putter. Button pusher. Button putter. That should be... That should definitely be a job title at Future Sound Systems now. Button putter. But yeah, and just trying to... Essentially, what the thing was like, if I can do something relatively close to early Human League, I'm winning. Right. That's all I want to do. I just want to come somewhere close to Travelogue, and then I can give up. And I did it, and I couldn't hear myself in the room, so most of the vocals were like...
But
put it through clouds. Yeah. But then I took all the stuff home, and I was like, well, I've got this...
Just to be clear, this was all totally off the cuff.
Yeah.
You were not prepared songs nor tracks.
No. So it's kind of like I know I want to do this kind of thing where it goes like and then I want to slow it down so it's more like slow track, and then
slow track,
and then
bedroom music.
Yeah, it's time to not get it on because this is electronic music and we're all socially.
There will be no getting or onning.
What's your name? Ooh. I took all the stuff home and I'm like, right, I've got like about 4 channels worth. I'll just do it. And very much in the vein of like, again, that, I guess the early like mute stuff where it's like, well, we've got a 4-track. And just do it.
We need 4 tracks. That's the one. Fill those tracks.
And then just record, do some stuff, stop, thankfully now Ableton, you can take your mouse up to the thing and make a cut and then bring things in. So if there are 8 bars where it's like, oh, nothing happened, just cut, just do a jump cut, essentially, do a tiny bit of crossfading, done. And then I listened back to it and I was like, actually, this is probably the best stuff I've done in a while. And it was also a reaction to like, oh, let's make a track. And then you spend like 8 hours in Ableton.
Finishing the track.
And then, you know, you've made the bones of a track, but it's not finished. And then so that gets discarded for about 18 months. And then you come back to it and it's like, yes, it's really good. I'll come back to it later. And it's just this whole circle of like...
That is exactly what I do with that as well. Just, I actually came up with a name for it, which is toy boxing. Which is where I like open the toy box of all the tunes I've written, get one out, play with it for a while, put it back in the fucking box.
Rather than giving it to the charity shop where everyone...
Which is the equivalent of releasing a track,
You know. So it was very much that kind of thing. And then when I started doing this, I was like, well, hang on. This only really requires like 6 hours for me to make 20 minutes of music. And it's probably...
Better. I prefer it.
Yeah, it's probably the stuff that I'm most proud of. I should do this. So I did a year's worth of it, and then
you were doing it monthly, like a house diet.
Doing it monthly, yeah.
What is a house diet?
A house diet is a typo that. So Zoe, my girlfriend, we were just messaging, and she was like, "Oh, you know, how's the house diet?" I was like, "That's it. That's the name for this thing because I'm doing it all at home." I mean, we live in a flat. We don't live in a house.
That's a bit of a lie. But don't tell anyone.
And it is seriously stripped back, so it is kind of dietary. And I was like, that's a great name. I'm taking that. Diet. Thanks, Zoe. Bye. Love you. And
you haven't seen her since.
Yeah, she still doesn't talk to me. And she so that's where the name came from. And again, it's a bit of a lie because I then started doing them at the studio where all of Future Sound Systems happens, and we're about to be.
I love the idea of like Jamie, you like working, and you just like having this sort of like. What's it? Future Islands, the guy.
Yeah, Future Islands.
Wearing a shirt. Yeah. You do sometimes wear a shirt as well.
Yeah.
And so it's like just seeing you doing a sort of like fucking not Ariel Pink, John Mouse vibe.
Yeah.
Hitting yourself.
A good friend of mine, Rob.
Please say that is your stage persona.
It kind of is though. We did discuss that the guy from Future Islands is me when I've hit my midlife crisis.
Yeah.
And like, you know,
and John Mouse is you in the longer head version.
Yeah. John Mouse is me when I'm just like, God, I'm gonna. Is it one of his songs? Is like, I'm gonna kill your pets or something like that? And I'm just like, not.
Yeah, but there's also like. A lot of his tunes are just inspired by RoboCop.
Yeah.
When you start listening, you're like, Cop killer.
Let's
kill some cops tonight. And it's like, oh,
it's like
and the video got RoboCop in it.
I think a lot of the stuff that I do, like people are like, well, what's it about? And I'm like, oh well,
what's it about?
Well, I watched this really good Louis Theroux documentary. So it's actually about like prostitution in America, and they're like. Oh, like, what's that song about? And it's like, oh, it's about Charles Manson killing people. Oh, I wish we hadn't asked. And it's like, there are like maybe 2 happy songs, and then the rest is like.
But yeah, they are. When you say songs, they are. You are improvising.
It is completely.
You're just like it's just pure underworld.
Yeah, and then it is like What's really interesting is that I would not be able to sit down in front of a notepad and write stuff that I felt was as powerful.
As the things that you just say.
As like just putting myself in a situation and saying, right, well, okay, this one. So, one of the tracks that I did is about an instance where Zoe and I. We kind of had an altercation with this guy on a like moped. It was a Domino's pizza delivery guy, and he went back to his moped and drew a baton out and started swinging for us. And it's like if we hadn't like been inches away, like we would have had our legs broken.
What?
And it's about like it's then like me trying to put myself in his shoes and saying what has drawn me to that point?
Yeah, what and why? Did you have an explanation? How did you enrage a Domino's person? Or how did he become? What was his?
Because we had just done we've just done a Moog Sound Lab UK event at the University of Surrey, which you should definitely come to the next one. It's the Moog Symposium. I think we're doing one at the end of November. Thank you very much. Let's come to it. It's good. But we were just packing up from that, and like he'd like almost hit the car, I think twice, and then almost like mowed over a lot of pedestrians. And I'm like, well, I'm kind of visiting staff here. I should probably stop him and say, what the hell are you doing? Which I did.
Right.
And then he's like, oh, I don't care. And I'm like, well, hang on. What if you hit my car, you came off the bike, you broke your neck, you're dead? What? And he's like, oh, I don't care. I'm like,
what?
Right, okay. And it just ended up getting like heated to the point where I'm like, well, you just, freaking idiot. And yeah, he just drew this baton out on us, and we called the police, and there was a police thing, and
what did he? Is he still employed by Domino's?
I don't know. I don't know. It's weird because did
you get a pizza?
Well, this is the thing. We recently were actually after a pizza in Guildford, so we ended up looking at the Domino's like Google reviews, and they are all like, my driver was really arsey with me and all of this stuff. It's like, wow.
Maybe that was him.
Domino's in Guildford, if you're watching this, maybe enroll in some staff training procedures. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, and it's all of that kind of stuff. And then, so I'm recording and improvising, putting myself in these situations, and it's usually pretty dark stuff. I mean, there's a track that I've done as well that is, did you see that case? I think this was last year, like last autumn, where this family, I want to say they were in California, husband and wife, they had like some crazy amount of children. I think it was like 12 or 13 children, and they kept them in the house.
Yes.
They were like chained up in the house.
Yes, I do.
And it's like what I'm doing is like, right, I'm one of the kids in that house.
Oh, fine.
And what does it feel like to be coming out of that? And then, of course, people are like, I put that out, and they're like, Finny, you all right? And I'm like, I'm fine. Like, think of those people.
I'm fine. It's not about me.
It's not about me. It's like trying to highlight that, trying to highlight that all this stuff is happening, and like, I guess if you want to get a bit more militant about it, people within the pop music sphere are happy talking about, going to the club and getting fucked and all that shit. And you think, well, actually, it's probably more pertinent to do what people would do. What what the whole pop music thing was in the early 80s, where it's like, yeah, actually. Yeah, people like Soft Cell, even the early Human League to a degree, definitely not pop, but Throbbing Gristle and TG. They're actually talking about stuff that is happening, and it is kind of happening in essentially your backyard, and people are being affected by it, and it's not being glossed over. And that's making the charts because people can relate to it. Like, you take something like Bedsitter by Soft Cell, and it's like, that's bleak as fuck. But it is people's lives, and that, I think that's why it's a hit, and that's why it resonates with people. Whereas like going to the club and
it's fake. It's like
fake
as fake as social media.
It's it is Instagram pop, and you just think like,
there's no
substance. This is horse shit. Why am I subjecting myself to this crap? Because it doesn't reflect on anything. It doesn't relate to anything. It is just pap.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to say that like anything that I do is particularly high and mighty, because it's not.
No. I totally get it. But you're just saying you're just speaking about things that are real, and you like actually. And I
really respect anyone that's doing that. So it's like Gazelle Twin, Liz. She's writing about like her experiences within the whole mood of Brexit, and guess what? It's really fucking good. And stuff like that is what really grabs me, and what I'm like, yeah, this is how
what I want.
Music should be written. Yeah.
It can be social commentary. It can be more than just nonsensical theatrics and just like self-aggrandizing.
Yeah, and that's what was nice about doing this whole thing monthly, was that I realized, well, I can record this stuff, mix and master it ish, and put it out quickly enough for it to kind of be like a diary and kind of stay on top of current affairs. So it's like, again, when like the Parkland shooting happened, like that was, I mean, again, I had people saying like, I don't know if you've gone too far with this. So all the drums on that are made from samples of the like Snapchat stuff filmed when the shooting was happening.
Right.
So I'm like, and again, like you can pretty much take the lyrics as like, well, this is dumb as fuck. how can you have no gun control? How can you, you know, distance yourself from this and say, this isn't a problem? And then it's lovely when people then listen to that and they review it, but you're reading people saying like, oh, the drums are so funky on Parkland. And I'm like, man, it's like the sound of people probably being shot and dying, you know. And it's not just people, it's kids, for fuck's sake. You know. Maybe just take a moment to listen to the commentary.
Well, I think the thing is that people don't know, they don't realise.
Yeah.
Obviously.
They're just like, man, those hi-hats are great. I'm like, oh.
That was not, but that's the difficult thing. I wouldn't necessarily pick up on that if I was like, you don't know that that's what it is, especially if you treated them. It's context. Yeah. It's like, yes, it may be called Parkland, but if you just don't put two and two together,
It's like, well, it's a weather report thing, isn't it? You know, Birdland, Parkland, you know, Chicoria.
That's amazing.
Man, it's jazz, man. But I don't know.
That's good. That's
funny.
It's very highbrow in that sense. Well, not highbrow. Highbrow is the wrong term. It's just like, because I know you don't mean it in a highbrow. But I mean that the thought, like, I didn't realise that those are, you know, that it is commentary.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of stuff that isn't that, and there's a lot of stuff that's like taken from like past experiences and things that's happened to friends and all that stuff. But it was quite interesting to be able to kind of play around with that and say like, well, I'm going to do something that is, you know, relatable now, and if anyone's on the same wavelength, then they will get it, and hopefully that resonates with them the same way as like, you know, Human League, Soft Cell, even like some of the Talking Head stuff in a weird way, like when, you know, David Byrne went into the whole like preaching thing. It's like that's a very interesting way of kind of almost subverting that and using it as an artistic tool. You know,
I think, and I like your structuring of how you've done it, the compartmentalizing of like it being a monthly thing, it being free-form, real-time jams as well. It very much speaks to my sort of feelings of that's what these are good at.
Exactly. Yeah. So like going back to the technical thing,
but the way that you not so much technical, it's just literally, but by saying it's all done in real time, improvised.
Just
fucking get a lot of music written.
That way. Yeah, that's the thing. And like, again, just, you know, more on a technical point of view, it's good for, it's kind of good for me because it allows me to sit at this stuff and say, okay, well, this is what I want from this. Because again, that's kind of like how I started off designing, was like, I could really do with like a gate sequencer. So that's like where the deck account thing came from. And, you know, I need a filter. Okay, Spectral Devastator comes along. It's not really a filter, but, you know, whatever. It's a thing. You know, and working with this system that way. So then like realizing, okay, this could be really useful, and this. The point is,
and what you're saying is something that I have also discovered is that I'm sure that if you just sit down and stare at a modular and go, I need an idea, it doesn't really work. But the point is, as soon as you actually start to put these things in the service of making music, that's why they will then finish that sentence. Then you start to realize, I need to do X, therefore I need Y. This is the problem I have with those like Facebook posts where people just go, hey guys, like I've got 8 HP left.
I need a thing.
What do I put in here? You should. I don't understand how you can be asking that question because you clearly haven't done anything with your system. Because if you did anything with it, you'd realize there's something you can't do.
It's a weird thing. It's like what do you want from it? And this. So when I take this rig out live, like everything's sequenced from a Digitact, or the drums are on the Digitact, so I know that drums are catered for. I don't need to really worry about that. I've got like this percussion section here with, you know, taiko.
As well as taiko.
Oh yes, and that into the TG3 into the BBD.
Are these the like glow in the dark cables?
No, they're Dope ones. They're like standard Dope transparent ones. And I think it was Simon at Cymru Beats. He did an event a few years ago, and they were just like, you know, affordable because it's Dope. I needed some more fairly short patch cable, so I was like,
they've got a surgical vibe. I expect to see blood flowing down.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's lovely. And but yeah, and you know, just being able to say like, well, so up the top I've essentially got 4 voices. That's it. Like, and I don't need loads of modulation because that's not really what I'm going for.
Like nice simple tones that sound good. That's like me. I don't modulate things very much.
And just saying like, this is a bass sound. Like,
Go on. Go on. No, go on. Go on. Fucking dance monkey.
Do it. I mean, I still think Braids is just killer for.
Braids.
I mean, even just doing noise like that, it's great, isn't it? But I mean, this mode, just having the super saw there. It's lovely.
You just need like a really tight little like DR55.
And then that's essentially all on the Digitakt. You know, it's just like
Play some little. No, come on.
I can.
Yeah, I'm not going to ask you to sing, but I just want to hear. I want to hear like the sort of bones of the tune going. I also, for those who can't see this, he's got a Hertz donut oscillator, which is. There's a wave of Eurorack modules, which were all of the most desirable things when I first got into this format. And the Hertz donut was one of those. And it's just like disappeared into the ether. Like, where are all the Hertz donuts? Do you know what I mean? Because they're the things, it illustrates our faddishness and our sort of craving for novelty. That there was a day when that was the thing you want. And I bet you can get them for nothing now. I would totally have one.
I mean, I think that was about 200 quid off eBay. That was second hand.
Not nothing.
And they still go for a fair amount, but it is just finding people that really want to kind of use this stuff. Let's brace ourselves. Oh, that's all right.
That's so old electro.
It really is.
That's really good. For God's sake, give me like a little like 808 under that. Come on.
Where's? Oh, it's there.
Yeah. Have it without the hats. Take the hats out. Yeah.
It's just fun, isn't it, really?
So,
yeah.
I'm just like, oh, hello. So basically, yeah, it sounds wicked. I love
Thank
it.
you.
It's just such a good riff. And then, but is there like a part two, or is it literally?
It's essentially just working through patterns. Yeah. So I mean, this is the thing now. I'm kind of like, well, because I've done those 12 EPs, and it's very much like it's just a pattern. It's a pattern-based thing. I should probably start maybe thinking about doing songs, but again, I don't want to go back into the whole like thinking about it too much thing. So
it wouldn't need much to like. I'm just thinking whether you have like a little like bridge and something else.
So it's kind of like what I'm now trying to do is do kind of like completely improvise stuff again and just go for it, but then think, okay, well let's put in another section here and let's just completely improvise that, and maybe just do like 2 minutes of improv, but then cut that in and make sure it's all on the same key palette of stuff. Yeah. Oh. Let me just grab my mic. Should we just pause intermission?
Yeah. Intermission. I might have a wee. You will hear me.
Sure.
Well, I say you will hear me pissing in the background.
Oh, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. It's my piss. It's my piss. It's my piss. Whoa.
Oh, nice. Is this the time safari?
This is the time safari.
Go on then.
So hang on, should we...
Right, we're going. We've had a break. We've had a break. Okay,
intermission.
We're back. Intermission of you.
So yeah, let me talk into two mics at once because that's not going to be terrible for you to edit.
That's fine. I'll just you can just slam everything up to 11. and let people figure it out.
I'm going to record my voice. I'm going to stop Pam's and I'm going to record my voice in like this and then deselect the record. 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 This and then. So what I can then do is I can voltage control everything. So I've got voltage control over the.
I love that it's got like start and end sliders like an Akai S612. I really want an Akai S612. If anyone's listening and they want to donate an Akai S612 to me, or for like, I'll give you up to £200 for it.
So you can
Thanks.
you can do all these glitchy things with it.
Oh, nice. Can I have a go?
Yeah, please do.
Oh man, because you can cross them over and then it goes in reverse. It's so intuitive.
So I'm not sure how obvious it's going to be, but as long as that is synced to the digitact, roughly, it kind of gives you rhythmically in time.
Rhythmical chops.
And then I'm using the gate extractor on the TG5 also to then record the gate output of the TG5 sets when to record.
So whenever you speak, it will record.
Yeah. So that's really handy because whenever I'm then not singing, it's got whatever came last in key, hopefully.
Good luck.
And it's just running it and mangling it.
Wow.
And I can bring that in and
Oh, clouds.
to clouds. Which of course is great. So.
I'm afraid that you're not modulating all of clouds.
Oh, well,
Get
actually, I do have this twin.
I love all of your mutable instruments modules you've made yourself. You're like, I don't need to buy this because I make things. I just make things. I'm so punk.
I'm so it's so punk, man. This might get very noisy. And then that will be in time with the digitact. So
This does sound quite challenging.
yeah, so that's the thing. There is that kind of noise element to it.
Potential is there.
Yeah, and but obviously, using all that stuff to just do like big vocal washes before the actual set kicks in. People are like, oh, this is gonna be like Kaylin Aurelia Smith or something, and then and I'm like, oh my god.
And then you go into like full cop killer.
Yeah.
Let's kill some cops.
Screaming about Brexit. Like, oh no, what have we done?
Shit.
I thought you were going to do a calm show.
It was going to be
like a lullaby.
No.
No, sorry.
Nope,
Too angry to do that. Sorry. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of just like this. I treat the system really as a toolbox, almost for more. Sound design isn't the right term because it's not. It's just basics and the
voices.
Just packing it.
It's instead of having five machine drum and this.
And just packing a load of stuff into a case with a handle. I think that's the main thing for me.
That's how I've been doing it.
Yeah. It's also at the most cynical end of it. It's marketing. It feels weird because as a builder and a manufacturer of this stuff, I'm very interested in like what everything is. But then as a performer, I'm like I don't care. I don't. Why does anyone care what the filter on the bass is? Why does anyone care what
Well, it's that, because we're all interested in the music. We're all electronic musicians. We are interested. But no one. It's right to say that no one else gives a shit. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I think that there is. This is what I've been the theme of almost every podcast so far. It's like there's thinking about the value of the music. How valuable is the music that you do in front of a person? And it's like no one gives a shit. No one. Some people who are interested in the wires give a shit, but so it's a question of making it easy for yourself. And I think like what you're doing when you've got like wicked riffs on the digitact, you're going to have a good show.
Because
you've got
fingers crossed.
You've got some good riffs. Whereas if you're like, let's make up the riffs
on the spot.
And it's like...
Because that's kind of what was happening originally with like the SQ1. So like the first few releases I did, like everything kind of sounds the same because it's, it's the 8-step sequence in the mirror mode thing.
Yeah.
So it's all like da-da-da, 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 over and over and again. So, because it is that whole circular thing. It's like I got into this because I wanted to make music. I wanted to make money to get gear to make music with.
Yeah.
And then slowly it's kind of morphed into like, oh, hang on, I could use my own design. I could use my own designs to make my own music. Oh, and then it becomes all this meta thing. It's like, it's my thing. It's no one else's. And, you know, I don't know. I'm not protective over it or anything like that. But it is lovely to be able to say like, oh, this is mine. Yeah, this is mine. And
literally.
And,
Have you sold any gear to your heroes? You don't have to specify customer confidentiality.
Oh yeah,
like
I definitely have. And
you've sold like things to people and gone, holy fuck.
Yeah. Like the PayPal transaction comes through and you think,
like, oh, that's
right, okay. And I'm working with Chris in itself, that was just bonkers. And you just think like, guys, is this really happening? Okay.
How did that come about?
So that was a funny one. The American firm, I think Endangered Audio, who they had done like a Eurorack crystallizer, and a few people on one of the Facebook groups were saying, we'd really like one of these, but we can't get hold of it. What's happened to it? And it was like this big thing. It was like they're just pedal version just behind a Eurorack panel. So it wasn't really optimized for Euro.
And just quickly, what is the crystallizer?
Okay, so the crystallizer is an old... it's based off this circuit that Roy Gwynn designed, I think back in the early mid-70s, 74, 75 kind of time, when he was a teenager. And it's essentially an LFO modulating it's like a kind of like bandpass filter, but in a wah-wah arrangement kind of thing. So, well, not really. It's more just a bandpass filter and a VCA, very crude VCA circuit. And you could do these mad things with it because the like LFO would go up to about, I think, 500 hertz. So you could do kind of like ring mod and ring mod-ish, and filter like FM with it, and it just sounded.
It was
mad.
a dirtifier.
Kind of.
Stick your guitar through that, will sound wicked.
Yeah, and I think Roy very much like designed it as like let's see what we can do with not that much componentry, and let's see if we can do a tremolo and like an auto wah thing. And it's very much got this sound thanks to the FET stage of it. So Chris picked that up and built a load for TG and brought some of the like trim pots to the front and did some extra stuff with it. And that's like
TG is Throbbing Gristle.
Yeah, sorry for the uninitiated. Yeah. So and they all had these things, and it became a sound of theirs. So it's like all over like Hamburger Lady and a lot of that early stuff. And so Endangered Audio were doing these off the original circuit from the 70s, because I think Chris had put it up on his website and stuff. You can easily access it. If you want to build your own, you can. And these few people on like one of the Eurorack groups were like, oh, you really want to get hold of one? I've been working in the Moog Sound Lab UK that's managed by Paul Smith, who was at the time Chris and Cozy's manager. So I'm like, well, I've got a connection with kind of a connection with Chris that way. Let's see if he's game to do a thing. And so asked Paul, do you think Chris would be interested? Yeah. Okay, great. So got in touch with Chris. Chris said, well, you should talk to Roy. Here's all of Roy's details. I'm like, great, brilliant. And I think by that point I'd kind of done a proof of concept thing that kind of half worked, half didn't. And Roy said, like, well, here's kind of like the problems that you've got with that design. I said, okay. We kind of left it as to like, yeah, we might get involved maybe. I think this was a phone call at first. And I left the phone call thinking, like, oh, I don't know if this is going to happen really. Not sure if Roy's really that into it. And then about a day later, he had done like full schematics for the VCF and the VCA stages. I'm just like, oh, okay, this is happening then. Great, brilliant. Okay, so went ahead with that. In the midst of all this, Endangered Audio came back with a crystallizer module.
Oh dear.
Roy put in so much work into just making it right, and Chris tested everything, and it was truly a collaborative thing. I know we got a bit of flack because it was like, oh, you've just put TG's name on it, and that's an excuse to sell it. And it's like, well, it's not. It's like it's actually like the VCF and the VCA circuits. The core of it is the same as the original, but the rest of it is new stuff, and it's optimized for Eurorack. It can take all the voltages. You're not going to blow anything up, and it sounds really good. And we've made sure that it sounds really good because Chris has tested all of this. His ear is fantastic, great. And I think people have come to understand that now. But I know, especially when we did that like limited edition TG1 thing, and we were like
big panel, like.
yeah, and it was £750 like RRP, and people were like, "That's so much money," and we're like, "Well, it's 4 modules in one panel." It's just the case of making something that people can then kind of go and use, but treasure at the same time, and actually make sure that they're getting something.
It's like we're looking at Schwayman modules recently, which are like, they are on the upper end of the pricing scale for things, and it's like, well, it makes me. I don't. How do you feel about pricing? The price of things.
I think you set the price, and the customer buys what they want to buy. I like the second-hand dope for stuff because it's really cheap and it works and it does what it says on the tin, And some of the cliff jacks break and you have to replace them, but I know that I can do that. I know that I've got the tools. Some people don't, but I think for the most part you get what you pay for in Eurorack, and it isn't a cheap game.
Well, that's the thing.
Don't get into it.
The argument. Here's me playing the devil's advocate. Is that you can buy a. I'm talking in this voice. You can buy an Arturia micro boot for 250 quid, but for 250 quid we'll buy you a mutable module that's just a panel. Yeah. And the micro boot's like it's got a keyboard, it's got knobs, it's like a full size. It's a small thing, but it just illustrates it's a complete standalone entity versus what is literally effectively an eighth of the other machine.
Yeah.
And obviously, but then what it comes down to is a fundamental misunderstanding that the price of things is not just about the raw parts. And it's like, unfortunately, that's not all you're paying for. It's not that simple.
I mean, that's the thing with all the mutable stuff. It's like you are paying for Olivier's expertise and his innovation and just some of the absolutely mad ideas he has, and you won't really get that elsewhere. You won't get his flavor, and that's what is great about Eurorack, is that it is. I do kind of see it as almost everyone's a record label, and you do get like this very like distinct taste and flavor out of each manufacturer. I like the fact that I can buy the Harvestman stuff and I know how it's going to feel, I know how it's going to work, I know how it's going to sound. I can buy mutable stuff and I know the same stuff. I can buy the ALM stuff and I know the same stuff. I can, Frequency Central. I think some of the like bigger players now, it's a little bit more of a grey area mainly because they're doing so much. I think that's my take on like the state of Eurorack.
What's the future of music technology for Shakespeare?
So I think I want to see more of this integrate with other performers. So performers, yeah. So for example, if you have, you can kind of do that already with bits and pieces. So it's like me singing into the TG5 and then pulling that through there. I want to see more things like where you can like have a drummer and the drummer is interacting with the Eurorack system somehow. Maybe even in 2 ways. So if you could have, is it Polyend that do all the Polyend?
Yes. You've got a Polyend.
You've got a Polyend.
Yes, it is Polyend. You make the little strike. I thought you were about because I suddenly when you said even if it could go the other way,
if it could go the other way.
I was thinking of like a Bastel like solenoid that just like doesn't like boing. It like hits him in the face if it like
but it's
you want to see like a bidirectionality
and things like where you could say right, I'm going to hit a tom drum and I've got a piezo on it, and this is giving away all of the Future Sound System secrets now. But where you could say, okay, well that's going to be picked up by one piezo.
Is it pronounced piezo?
I don't know. I like to make it sound more.
It sounds Italian.
Rather
a piezo.
Piezo.
Isn't it piezo?
It's a piezo. Piezo. I don't know.
I'll go to the piezo and have coffee.
Piezo.
Coffee.
I'm going to call it piezo for the sake of
we're calling it a piezo.
Stupidity. Yeah. So piezo pickup, and then also a kind of piezo transducer. So it picks up the tom drum and then it says, okay, well that's doing something. So then I'm going to send something back into the tom drum and get it to resonate like in such a way.
Like something just to like do things in the tom drum.
Yeah, because
Can you even play sounds into a tom?
you
Would that do anything?
you should be able to. Yeah, if
Would
you've
that do
got a
anything?
decent enough transducer.
Like one of those speakers that sticks to windows. And
Yeah,
stuff.
because there's like this amazing. Jamie found this. There's this amazing performance on YouTube. Like this, it's from some university in the States, where it's several players with a bass drum and a speaker, and they're doing. I don't know if it's just feedback or whether it's other like recorded sound into the bass drum, but it's absolutely incredible because it's like a full 10 minutes of music with just people beating this bass drum and then actually putting stuff into it.
Weird.
Why are you doing this? This is mad.
So you basically want the modular to interact truly with the band, become
yes.
a band member, and suggest and change things automatically.
Because it's like kind of going back to what this is. I was talking last night to Peter. We got talking about like DAF, Deutsche Amerikanische Freundschaft, and just so I can say the name.
Yeah, well done. Rattle that off.
I'd love to do some stuff like that where like I play drums as well, and you know, all their stuff. It's like, oh yeah, there's a SQ10 and an MS20 and a drum kit and some vocals. Well, I can do the drums, I can do the synth bit, and I can do the singing, but I'm not sure if I can really.
Well, there is
how can I
what about
bring
that guy?
all that together?
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Fucking.
I think I know who you're going to say.
Duracell.
Yes, exactly.
Who had a G2?
Yeah, exactly. And you think like, well,
By the way, 'cause we've made a massive assumption that you know what the fuck we're talking about. But Duracell was a French. Was he not French? French
he was
musician,
French. Yeah.
drummer,
Yeah.
who used to play like amazing covers of like Space Harrier.
Yeah.
And he had a Nord modular G2
Yeah.
or a Nord modular producing
Yeah,
sound
yeah.
with a piezo.
Yeah.
Attached to lots of piezos, attached to his drum kit.
Yeah.
But he went deaf.
Yeah,
He went deaf.
Yeah.
And no longer makes music.
Yeah.
So that's what can happen to you, Finlay.
But again, it's
if
like
you're not careful.
The
wear earplugs,
chops.
God damn it.
I'd have nowhere near the chops to do that on drums.
But it's
similar
there are
kind
people,
of
there
thing.
are people like there's Adam Betts as well. Are you familiar with that guy? He's drums
I know
for Square
the
Pusher.
name. Oh, that's how I know.
He is
Yeah,
basically
yeah.
like a human like Akai S950
Right.
with an Atari.
Right.
And the patience of Richard D. James.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, I should say the patience of Tom Jenkinson and a DR660 and an S950 in a flat in Chelmsford.
Okay, that's
Right.
quite a
Or
thing.
Romford or whatever.
Yeah.
But you can set it so that you are triggering, firing,
Yeah.
advancing sequences, causing things to happen.
to actually happen. Yeah.
When you
yeah,
strike
yeah.
the drums.
Yeah. And I've had kind of more experimental things. Again, using the G2 and like having these like, you know, more generative sequences that work well with like having live drums behind them because they do feel a bit more like, samba party, but it's all 4-op, you know, FM and it's in quad. So
Yes,
you've
it
got
is.
every operator in a different corner of the room
Fucking
and it's
yeah.
kind of like, okay, this is weird. Right, great. And then a drum kit in the middle. But
There's not a lot that gets done with quadraphonic sound as well. It's
I think for good reason.
really too highbrow.
When it
But
it's
done so well. Like,
when it's
be
done
immersive
well,
and beautiful and
when it's done well, it's amazing. And when
womb
it's
of
done
sound.
badly, it makes you want to throw up because
Really?
it really is quite nauseating if it's done badly.
Really?
I found
I've
more
never-
so
I've
than
never
like
heard, like-
it's weird. It's like especially with electronic sound. If you've got like a waveform, just a static like sawtooth, and you're sat in the middle of a badly aligned like quad array. Because of all the phase problems, you get all of that like left
sounds
to
like,
right.
Oh yeah.
You know, when you've got
a bit
cans
like
on.
you've gone too close to a wall. Like if you stand with like your ear right up to a sound dampening thing, it's weird.
And I've been in several situations where that's happened, and I don't want to do this. Can we go back to stereo, please? Because at least stereo, if you've got it out phase in a room on speakers, it's nowhere near as bad. You're just like, it's out of phase, it's fine. But it's, for some reason, at least for me personally, as soon as you've got the two speakers behind you, then you just want to like fall on the floor and float around a bit, and then, you know, be given heavy sedatives. Yeah, it's just it's not
Sounds
pleasant.
like a good evening though.
Yeah,
Could be.
yeah, could be. It's a strange thing that, and I do. It's kind of funny because like where I studied, that was a big area of research, was doing like multi-channel sound and having the ability to go back there and say like, well, should we put the Moog Sound Lab through quad? And then you do hear it through a very well-aligned quad system because Tony Myatt, who's at the university, really knows what he's doing. It's like, oh my God, amazing. And it's fantastic. But
Thinking like 8 or what? How many oscillators is it in the 55? It's like 9.
You've got
it's 6.
Well, you've got 7, but it's a bit of a lie because the first 6 are split into 2 banks of 3, and you've got master controllers that are inseparable on each bank. So I kind of look at it as like you've got 2 really fat oscillators and then 1 on its own. But like across the system, being able to use all of those, I mean, I think. We had a composer called Charlemagne Palestine who wanted like sawtooth waves out of every single oscillator in the Sound Lab, and we did count it. It was something like 42 or something like that. It was like close to 50, and that on a quad array, it was just like, I think I need to leave the room. This is quite intense. And you listen back to it, and it is astounding because it's one of those durational things that like. You start to hear things that aren't there, and it's quite intense.
This sounds like what's his face? Old Difficult Man.
Old Difficult Man. Stockhausen?
No, he was an old difficult.
He was an old difficult man.
Difficult music.
Xenakis is difficult.
Not Xenakis. Not Xenakis.
Doing a live performance now.
I can't think of it.
This is one of his works, though, right?
Yeah, it pretty much sounds like. The guy who does the super well-tuned piano. Come on, old like minimal composer man, like very revered.
You sure it's not Charlemagne?
Yeah, someone else. It doesn't matter. It comes to me.
No, it's gonna really bug me now.
Sorry. What other innovations can we invent? I would like. I'm going to put one forward for you to invent, please. Is I want the kind of control that Ortega clearly have over. I want like an Ortega plugin that's effectively like set up the parameters and let me interact with the parameters in the way that they're doing.
Yeah.
Someone needs to like a complete groove box that's all.
Yeah.
What I'm describing is called the fucking Electron Digitone. If there was only like a small groove box that allowed complete control over multi-timbral FM voices, and allowed me to sort of just control what they're doing on a per step basis, so that I could evolve it from one, but also that's not what they're doing because they've got like the shit is not they're not programming every step. They're setting rules in motion. They're just pushing the little car off the hill.
I mean, it's funny because it's like I've got stuff where it's like patches in Reactor and all that where you think like, well, this in a module would be quite interesting because it does give you that whole like you could just let it run and it's a track, but then you think, well, I could just patch that up though, and
could you though? Unless you had like 10 Akemi's castles.
But this is the thing, like you do need like I need 4 LFOs that have all got this feature, and then actually finding that feature in Eurorack is really difficult, and that's going to cost me £800 before I've even gotten into like the logic and the switching and all that. Yeah. So you start thinking, well, maybe it is worth doing, but then.
I would love to see like a digitone that was not prescriptive in its input requirements.
Should get Matthew at ALM to do it.
If you're listening to this, do my fucking podcast and try like pin him down for so long. He's like, no, I can't. I'm not at the moment. I can't do it. That's
come
like
on.
busy.
He can do it. Surely.
He's like, I'm just so busy. I'm going to Japan.
He is busy.
He is very busy.
He's a very busy
and he really
man.
did go to Japan as well.
No, yeah, he did. He found that FM chip vending machine, didn't he?
Yeah, because I was like, go here, and he was like, I went there. Wicked. That's my impression of Matthew from out.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah, wicked. Right. Sorry, Matthew. With these glasses as well.
Yeah.
Wicked. That's great. But he could do it because he's got the fucking.
He's got the
like the
digital
Akemi,
chops.
The Taiko is a distillation of the castle of the OPL chip, put into the drums. But then I'm like, what you want is like 10 of those chips.
Yeah.
And then, but it's like, but I also just want, I want someone to, I don't know why I've stolen this from you. I'm suggesting to use that you can make this, because normally the whole point is I ask other people. But I just like, give me generative input parameters, i.e. frequency of drums, frequency of snares, distribution of snares or whatever. Don't give me 16 buttons.
Yeah.
Just like, why does no one make this? No one makes the kind of, the generative input groove box, the generative groove box.
It's a weird thing because I think
which is what modulars can be. But,
I think,
you say, it's fucking £800 for the basics just to get going.
And I think for me that's it. Is that because I approached this, the one of the main reasons I got into modular was that I wanted like to do weird sequencing and drums. And I mean, I've kind of strayed completely away with that.
That's the opposite. You've done normal sequencing and drums, and the weirdness is coming from something else.
But, I started looking at like, well, if you actually put a load of those dope for, sequences together and a load of logic, it's actually really, really amazing. And I think that's the main thing for me is like, just buy the dope for building blocks. Yeah. And I know the sound generation bit can get a bit tricky, and that's probably where you do want something that's like, it's an FM drum kit in 16 HP with full, like, maybe assignable CV control over stuff. Great. And then you just bang a load of this dope for modulation and control into it and just let it run for an hour, get an NTS show, put out a 12 LP box set on Walk, and then,
fucking.
I'm still.
How much is the postage on every one of those LPs?
I think it was like £12, but they're like most of them are warped.
Really?
Have you seen about this?
I have seen it. Yeah. Didn't you get one?
Yeah, mine's warped, and it's like I can't play all of my favorite tracks on it. They won't play.
Shit.
And it's just like, oh.
Have you taught? You're getting a reprep.
I don't know. Bleep have just been like, we're gonna try and find a resolution for this.
Fuck.
And there's no.
So it's more than just you. It's
I think it's the majority, because I think it's all where that heat wave happened. I don't think anyone expected that if they put all the box sets up against, it's so annoying, because it's like if they had rather stacked them not like that but like that,
you meant to put
would have been
fine.
Would have been fine.
Right.
But it's all the ones on the top, they're fine, but the ones on the bottom, no,
they're not.
No, they are rather bent, as it were. And when you put a bent thing on a flat surface when it's supposed to be flat, it's not going to play, guys. Sorry.
If you've got one of those little like VW cars that,
you'd probably
really
right.
Fun, though,
actually, no,
rolls,
I don't know.
It rolls around the hills.
I don't know, because these are quite. It's weird because like the design of the box has meant like there's like a big lip in like one of the. It's almost like a corner of the disc is.
Oh, it's warped. Like warped up, like a bowl.
Yeah,
fucking hell.
Yeah. And I kind of
shit bowl because it'll run out in the middle of the.
Yeah, because I took
soup in it.
I took delivery of them at the studio space, and
good use of that. I took delivery. I took the other day. Imagine my disappointment.
Imagine my disappointment when I realised the records were warped. But I looked over the reflow oven and I thought, just put them on the top of that, run a few circuit boards through, they'll be fine, right? Can't get any worse.
This when you like bake your graphics card in the oven in order to like reflow. I remember people going, "Hey man, I discovered my graphics card was broken. I put it in the oven and it got better." I mean, and I realise now that's a reflow. You have literally just reflowed it. That's why it does actually work.
Of course. And that's the thing. We've got a bit of a dud MacBook at the workshop, and all the screen goes green, certain times of the day if you're breathing on it from a certain angle. And we're thinking like, just chuck it in the reflow oven, mate. Just chuck it in there. Mate. Just chuck it in there.
It went in a reflow oven once, going on again. It's like in my Juno 60, I was like trying to. I was doing the mod. No, it's not a bad story. It's a good story. It's a happy story. Okay. So it's not a good story.
I was just thinking it was all the chips had gone or something.
No. Okay. I was doing the like brain transplant to put the Tubatech.
The Tubatech thing. Yeah, great
Juno
stuff.
60. 66 or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is terrifying, desoldering the brain of a Juno 60. And it's fucking hard. It's been soldered into the PCB in this nihilistic way, but this fatalistic way, which is this will never come out. Anyway, I discovered that my like transpose, I can't remember which button, is like the key transpose button didn't work. And that meant that the mod didn't work. I was like, bastard. And I opened it up and I found the cold, so there was a broken, snapped cold solder joint. I was just like,
Right.
and it was like working again.
Yeah.
I loved this moment of like sticking the iron into the like blob hill and just watching this into the blob, sticking the iron into the blob hill because it was that joint had been cold since 1983 or two. And I loved just like heating it up and just letting it melt again.
Yeah.
And it's like that weird moment. I do this a lot with technology where I think about like the sort of think about it having a mind or a personality. You're just like for a brief moment, it's like I'm alive, and then it's like I'm dead. But there's been like 35 years has elapsed. Another example of that is like when I borrowed that Emu 4XT sampler. And I was like, the person I borrowed it off, Will, was like, I haven't like run it in. Well, Will doesn't really sound like that. He's like, I haven't run it in since 1982. It's like Matthew at ALM is my stock voice for ALM. I was like, he's like, I haven't booted it up in like 10 years.
Yeah.
It probably won't even boot up. Yeah. And I turned it on and it was just instantly, you can hear the like little hard drive going like up and it's really whiny. But you just turn it on and again, it was like that. I was sort of texting him and, I was like, imagining that it's like a reanimated corpse. Imagine reanimated. It's like it's like I'm alive. What year is this? What year is this? I'm like, it is 2018.
Where am I? What is the climate here?
Strange. The power feels different. The air contains more carbon dioxide. How long was I asleep, Master? We were busy working on that hip-hop tune the other day. I'm afraid the files are lost.
Where is Grandmaster Flash? Who are you? You are not Grandmaster Flash.
I don't know. It's a strange thing, isn't it?
Oh, my friends are dead.
Where is my friend? Mackie 32. We had a great time together. We used to talk all day. Is he here? He's gone. He was made obsolete. We mix in the box. The box? What is box? What is box?
I think that the most sad one must be all of those samplers that used to have like floppy drives or zip drives. It's like,
Daddy.
Yes, son.
Where is my 3 1/4 inch floppy drive?
Well, son, we had to perform some surgery on you. I'm afraid you've got a far better peripheral device, input now.
But what is USB?
What is it, Father?
What is USB?
What is it? It's like putting the HXC drive. I've bought a HXC.
Yeah.
That's weird, like strapping something completely modern to something completely
antique now.
ancient.
I
like that. I like that. That's a brilliant use of technology.
Just hack the tech to make it work.
Hack the tech to make I can put as many floppy disks in you as you like. I have a limitless...
Feed me now!
Millions of them in my little in this tiny little thing.
What is
What is
SID?
What is 32 GBs? What's a gigabyte?
What is a gub? I only know mub.
Father, how have you got 5,000 floppy disks? So many.
I'm not sure if I can eat all of those in a lifetime.
Apparently, if you use the HXC, does it load at the same speed as a floppy disk? Because you can't write.
Yeah, surely you can't change the data
machine
rate.
at high speed.
Yeah, surely.
So it's not like a super.
I don't know. It's just I do find it genius.
It no longer goes. I had the Casio FZ1.
Oh,
which was like just the sound. I had this really weird moment when I first accessed the disk drive. And just hearing that. Like the little thing. I was like, right. It suddenly just takes me back.
It's the past. What are we going to do? It's amazing. Even stuff like old ZX Spectrum files and all that. And you see these people online that are like,
I just overclocked my ZX Spectrum.
by speeding up the WAV or whatever they've taken of the tape. You just think that is amazing on the one hand. on the second hand, why?
Why indeed?
Anyway,
Some people enjoy interacting with old technology.
Yeah, no, and I totally get that, but just the whole like, I'm going to push this beyond its means. I'm going to push this beyond its means, but it's pushing for something that can't be pushed. You know, I don't know. I understand it in some ways, but in
Just like, well, I think people like tinkering, but I also like people just like old technology. Like, there was I can't remember the name of the YouTube channel. It's like LXD Gaming or something. I'll find and link it. But basically, it's like it's a YouTube channel about old computing, and but he does stuff like he buys an old IBM PC. But it's still in its box. It's never been.
Wow, right.
So he's like unboxing what was then probably a
Yeah.
£5,000 computer.
Yeah,
and it's still got all of its old, like you're literally taking out the packet. A lot of the packaging is dissolved.
yeah,
as well.
completely.
It's like like the inside of like flight cases where you've got like.
cannot contain you anymore.
I'm afraid we have deteriorated. It's like it's the synth equivalent of body liquor. You know what body liquor is? Just for those watching who aren't familiar with the term body liquor, but it's not a sexy thing. It's the opposite.
It's very much not a sexy thing.
It's the least sexy a human body can be. It's when a body body liquor is the term for when a body has been placed inside a container where the air or liquid is not allowed to escape. And so, over the period of centuries and millennia, the body decomposes.
It's
eventually becoming a form of liquid.
It is quite strange watching the death of flight cases. That must be the most pathetic thing I've ever said, but it's just that whatever that foam is, it is like a living thing, and it does just go. Help me! You know, it's just falling off its wooden walls, and the wood's just like, I'm fine. What the hell are you doing? You know,
it's like the inside of like drum machines where you get like the
God, all the foam,
like the
and
foam
all
that was
that,
designed to like, and the trimming on the things that are supposed to
it's
help
all
things
falling
seal. It just
apart.
like, but I suppose it's just because nobody expected them to last this long.
Nobody expected the Spanish Inquisition drum machine.
Never expected you to last this long, son of a bitch. Right.
It is quite a thing. I don't know, but then I'm still amazed that like, so Roland can build the Junos, and they are clearly not built for reliability 30 years later. I mean, look at that, the epoxy on the voice chips and all that becoming semiconductors.
Juno 60 through there, mate. It's still rocking.
Yeah,
still rocking. A bit weird. It's gone a bit senile.
I mean,
it has its little like.
I'm definitely
aches and
thinking
pains,
106s.
But we all do. We all love it. Yeah. The voice chips go.
And too many.
The BA62.
Yeah, whatever they are. But then, so they engineer something like that where it's like, let's face it, it's crap. But then,
what about the fucking DX7, mate?
Yeah, and so Yamaha can do that.
It's got
absolutely
a lid.
fine.
It's a professional. DX70 is amazing.
And
it hinges up.
Even stuff like the 505 and the 626, where it's like, this is pretty primitive sampling, like, ROM-based sampling stuff, and it's still fine. And like everything inside is very sensitive to static and whatnot and overvoltage. It's still fine.
Yeah.
And people circuit bend them and destroy them.
But it's the fact that they were built.
Still fine.
The key thing was instruments that were built to be serviced is a variant. That is not like when I say like literally with the DX7, when you undo it, it's hinged.
Yes.
The Jupiter 6 has you can see hinges at the back.
Yeah.
Because the panel is meant to be lifted up and serviced. There is a service manual that you can download and you can service. Carl Sagan can service.
Is there a spare
Carl servicing out in space. Like
it is amazing, and I know.
But I'd say that they don't do that anymore. I think some of them do that. And I don't know if do you develop your modules so they can be serviced?
Yeah, it is a bit of a thing that we do think about because I think both Jamie and I have spent enough time doing kind of service work where you think I'm not going to engineer something where it's like someone's got to come to this module and spend 3 hours just taking the panel off. And it's like, any mixing desk where it's like you've got to take off all the knob caps, Oh, and all of the nuts holding
like
the
the
pots on,
Ooh,
and
yeah,
all of
no.
that. And instead,
about no?
they haven't put like standoffs in, so it's just 4 Allen bolts, and then the whole thing comes off, and it's just like, oh, what were you doing, Mackie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then maybe they weren't. That's the whole point. I
Yeah,
think
maybe it is a
was like,
throwaway thing, and then you
it's
think
to
oh.
a price point. Where we're talking about price again,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like but it is when things are made to a price point, then they can't be made to be served.
And it's just a shame if it's like, it is the whole throwaway culture thing, and I'm very much against that. But I don't think that.
I also don't
exists in
think
any of
people
that,
throw away
this, but-
synths.
No,
That's the thing.
no,
they don't
no.
get thrown away.
No.
But
Whereas
the question,
mixers, I think, and stuff like that.
yeah,
there's a
they're
tendency,
becoming very obsolete. Now
Yeah, where it's
for
like,
certain
oh,
workflows.
my crappy little bearinger isn't working anymore. I just bin it. And it's like, well, yeah, do bin it, but
Someone could be
you could actually
that's someone's
fix
noise
it.
project.
yeah. To be
Like that.
fair,
I don't think I've never thrown away. I don't understand how people find synths in dustbins. 'Cause
Yeah, no, neither do
I will
I.
give them away. I
Yeah.
do give things away.
yeah.
But I don't throw things.
I
Why would
managed
you?
to score a couple of DX11s from my old school because they were about to go in the skip, and I think they did actually because of
great-
regulation they had to gently place them in the skip, and then I had to come back like
Gently
5 minutes
remove
after
them.
school and put them over my
DX11s as
shoulders.
well. Sick. I would like a
They're lovely.
DX21 one.
They're
DX20.
lovely.
I said 21 one.
21 1. I would love a DX21 one. They are beautiful things. They
It's
are
like
really
the
lovely.
gritty, fuzzy.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, and
Like,
you can. It is a
it's
case
4
of
off,
like,
isn't it? But it's all
yeah.
like it's an OPL chip inside.
Yeah,
isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah.
So it's
And you
super
take
dirty.
any of the presets that are like, well, that's crap level 42, and then you just bring the feedback up and maybe change the algorithm. It's like, oh no, it's all tachograph. So it's they are amazing things, and the fact that like the value of the DX7 has definitely gone up over the
has.
last few years. I mean, it's still not your CS80, but
It's not. No.
it's not. Oh yes, you have to take out a mortgage
It's
to
got
buy
a ways
this.
to go.
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
the DX1 is it DX1? The big one.
Yeah.
Big fucker.
That's not as much as a CS80. It's a lot. But
It's the same size physically as
yeah,
a CS80, which is amazing.
yeah.
I did see a CS80 and a DX1 next to each other.
Was that the super booth
Yeah,
thing? Yeah.
I got to
yeah.
having a go and have a go. And
Yeah.
it's like, just playing the ribbon on the CS80 as well. It's like,
we really annoyed a lot of people at Super Booth with the CS80 because I was just like, I just want to have a play on it, and then like a queue started forming, after about 30
and
seconds.
someone like,
And then I was like, no, just give me some more time on it. And I just ended up playing like. Oh, Jamie, could you just bring the calf up? Yeah. This is a great synthesizer. And I think we left and we got glared at a little bit.
Did you?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
It's like, you're not respecting the technology by playing lovely, sevenths.
what was it? I've seen that. Oh, they had the fucking. They had the fucking.
The fucking.
They had the fucking. The Yamaha fucking. It's
The Yamaha. Fucking.
the fucking. D-Tronics DT7.
Oh, the programmer
AKA
thing.
the modern gelling
Oh my
house.
God, yeah.
This is just again a bit of an in joke here, or not an in joke, but in thing is the programmer for the DX7, which puts every parameter of the DX7
on a knob.
into your fingertips to touch the knob, and there are many
Yes.
parameters in the DX7
Yes.
voice. Something like probably 127.
It's
or-
definitely one of those things where you just want to wrap a load of elastic bands round all the knobs and then just start pulling the elastic bands and it all goes like
That's what I was asking you to make. is
yeah.
the-
Well, that might there is something that might be doing that soon. So who knows? Some more phone calls away, but
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
so keep an eye out.
Where? What? For you, you're going to make an FM mega voice
It's not.
controller?
No, it's not. Well, it's a voice. It might be a voice controller amongst other things, but it won't be. It won't be a voice, but it will have some interesting control stuff where you can hit some buttons and some stuff.
Interesting. I'm interested. Well, we've talked for 3 hours.
It's been a long time. It's been quite a long time. I'm happy to talk more, but I feel that people will probably start getting bored.
No, we can talk more.
I don't know. It's up to you.
Is there anything else you'd like to say? And also,
Your impression of Matthew is scaringly good, but scaringly bad at the same
thanks,
time.
thanks very much. That's me.
Is there anything else? Probably not.
Any gripes, thoughts? You have the platform. The world is listening. Tens of thousands of people will hear this.
Go and have fun.
Buy your modules.
I mean, if you want to, if it's your kind of thing. I genuinely, people start saying like, oh, plug yourself, and it's like, if you want it, you can buy it.
How do you describe it? Just in 5 words. What is Future Sound Systems mode d'emploi? That's not the correct term.
It's all right if you want. I think that's it. I mean, we just do stuff that we want to do, and I think it's funny.
I'm glad you don't do stuff you don't.
Well, yeah,
do
but
stuff
this
you don't
is
want
the
to do.
thing. This is the thing. People are like, well, why don't you do like a sensible filter? And it's like,
Because don't want to.
because there's a million sensible filters out there. You can get one of these, one of those. Or, even that's a bit more sensible than that. But I don't think there's much out there that's as...
I would say that the only thing
mad as
like
that.
the Spectral Devastator is the Plague
Bearer.
That's
Yeah,
the only
yeah,
thing
yeah,
I
yeah.
could say.
Yeah. And then, the whole pin matrix thing, and people are like, well, I don't want to spend 24 HP on patch control. And it's like, okay, well then don't. But then, Peter Rayberg does, and, and the other people do, and you just think, well...
They're not bastards.
Then,
they... So what does that say about you then, eh?
Talking to Peter last night, he was like, this saved me a whole case. And I'm like, okay,
Pin matrix.
great, yeah. And somehow, I don't know how, but, I'm like, great, okay, great, And, I mean, we've got to thank Ben Wilson, really, and Tom Curtin, because that wouldn't...
Sorry.
No,
Just
go for
unplugged
it. That wouldn't have happened without them.
It went in that one, didn't it? No.
Oh, whatever.
They don't do anything, that's just for sure.
That wasn't going to be a module. That was going to be like, well, let's do a standalone thing and have patching on that. And then Ben and Tom were like,
Make it a module,
I want to
mate.
make it a module. It's like,
Wait, who was the other person?
no. A guy called Tom Curtin. He used to work in Bristol and really close to us, and we just pop down the studio. It's like a customer of ours, and give us quite a few ideas actually.
Good name, Curtin.
And Curtin. I always this is going to embarrass him now if he's listening or watching this. I always think of Torn Curtain by Television,
Oh, nice.
and now whenever I hear that song, I end up singing Tom Curtain at the top.
Yes.
Yeah, so that wasn't ever going to be a module, and then I played around with it in like Eurorack setting, and I was like, actually, this is really handy for live, and just throwing a load of stuff at it and seeing what happens. Let's do it, and
You did it.
yeah,
You did it.
did it.
Well done.
And people, there are some very, very interesting engineers out there and purists who still think that the tech behind it doesn't work, and it
Really?
does.
Fucking
and they haven't figured it out.
What do you mean
It's really
when you say
simple.
the tech doesn't work?
So they think it's like a shorting matrix, and a shorting matrix would not allow you to do mixing.
Yeah.
And it's not shorting matrix, and that's all I'm going to say, because it's really easy. It's really easy to figure it out, but they haven't figured it out.
That sounds like a challenge. You shouldn't.
Yeah.
You shouldn't goad people like
No,
that.
it's really simple. It's really simple, but I think people think like, well, that's a lot of that. And it's like, well, it can be a lot of that because we've got a pick and place machine. Yeah, so
So
I don't know.
to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
So yeah,
Right. That's it.
great.
Last chance.
Have fun in life.
Thanks.
Love each other.
I love you.
I love you too, man. Thanks for having me. Thanks for making
coming.
the tea.
That's all
it
right.
was a lovely cup
Another
of tea.
one. Let's have some Turkish.
Oh yeah,
Fuck
yeah. I can do with some pitta.
pits. The
Pitta.
pit and the
Pitta
yard.
before I go and see pitta.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
See what you did there.
Exactly.
And that's it.
Yes.
Ending. Bye.
And there you have it. The man, the boy, the legend that is young Master Finlay Shakespeare. My God, I wish I'd been selling modules to Analog Haven when I was in sixth form. You know, try harder, mate. Make an effort. So, yes. And as you hear, it's mainly this has been a vehicle for me to be really silly with my friend Finlay, which I enjoyed entirely and immensely, and I hope you did too. And after that, we went for Turkish food, and it was delicious. That's what I'm going to miss. I'm going to miss all the Turkish food of North London. I love it. It's so nice. And from this, I wonder what I draw as my little moral from Finlay's chats. Be more political, perhaps, and say things that mean things in your music. That's an interesting one. He feels very strongly about that. And, the whole pap bullshit of pop. And I love pop music as well. Like, there's so much great stuff to say about that. But it's certainly true that being in the club is perhaps not as hard-hitting or meaningful as what could be said. There's a lot of things that need to be commented on in the world. Of course, after all, these machines kill fascists, so let's use them and kill some fascists. So, that's it. My thanks to sponsors, Signal Sounds. My thanks to Finlay. Thank you, Finlay, for giving up your time very, very kindly. And mainly, thank you. Thank you.